Okay. Good evening. Tonight's Committee of Adjustment hearing is being held by video conference and live stream video on the town's live stream webpage at oakville.ca. This is a hearing to consider applications for minor variance consents held under the authority of the Planning Act. Please keep in mind the intent of this process is to review the application that is before the committee, listen to the evidence, and then make a decision. This process is not intended to be used to resolve any concerns or disputes that may exist between the town, individuals, or organizations. If a request for a deferral is made and the committee grants such a request, the applicant or authorized agent must contact the Secretary Treasurer to schedule a new hearing date. In order to conduct an effective and efficient electronic hearing, we have adopted the following process. If you are watching the live stream on this hearing, on oakville.ca and you wish to speak to an item on the agenda, you can call 905-815-6095. Again, the number is 905-815-6095. The phone number will also be posted on the screen below the live stream page at oakville.ca. Staff will be standing by to take your call. When you call in, staff will ask for the name and item number that you wish to address and your telephone number. Then further instructions will be provided for you to call back to join the video conference. When the chair of the committee polls for interested parties, you'll have to press *6 to unmute yourself. The applicant or agent will then be given the opportunity to briefly explain to the committee the basis of the application and answer any questions that may arise. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided for the presentation. You will need to state your full name and address for the record. Any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. All delegations must also state their full name and address for the record. A maximum of 5 minutes will be provided to make your presentation. All remarks and questions are to be directed to the chair, and any submissions beyond the 5 minutes will be at the discretion of the committee. The applicant or agent will then be provided a further 5 minutes to respond to the comments made by interested parties, answer any questions from the committee members, and if the applicant or agent has any concerns found in staff report, this will be the time to advise us. The matter will then be taken into committee for a decision. This will mark the end of all discussions. Any person desiring a notice of the decision for an application must provide a written request, preferably through email, to the Secretary Treasurer. Written notice of the committee's decision will be mailed no later than 10 days for minor variance and 15 days for consent applications to the applicant, agent, and any other person who has filed a written request for such notice. The last day to appeal the decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal will be noted on the decision. Only the applicant, specified persons, or public bodies may appeal the committee's decision to the Ontario Land Tribunal. In November 2022, Bill 23 legislation, the More Homes Built Faster Act, amended the Planning Act to remove appeal rights for members of the public. If no appeal is received within the prescribed timeframe, the decision of the committee becomes final and binding. The Secretary Treasurer will then notify the applicant and anyone who received a copy of the decision through written correspondence. People participating in this hearing are to be courteous to and respectful to the members of the committee, town staff, and the other people participating in the electronic hearing. Tonight's electronic hearing is being video recorded and available for future viewing at oakville.ca. Thank you. Okay. We have one regret this evening, Mr. John Hardcastle. Do I have any declarations of pecuniary interests? I see none. Thank you. Requests for deferral or withdrawals of application. Madam Secretary Treasurer, if there's anyone in the audience who raises their hand for a deferral or withdrawal, please put them through. Anyone who wishes to discuss their items further with town staff and are requesting a deferral this evening, please raise your hand and the Secretary Treasurer will invite you into the panel to speak. I will apologize for advance. I do have a cold this evening, so bear with me.
Madam Chair, I moved in the agent for the file 1075 John Laird Circle, A/086 225.
086. Okay, thank you.
Hi, Chair, through you. Am I able to speak now?
Yes, go ahead. Who is this? Jamie?
Yes. Yes, it is. My name's Jamie Shaletsky. I'm representing the owner of 1075 John Laird Crescent, who would like to request a deferral of this item, as he would like to respond to some of planning staff's comments and have the opportunity to make some changes to his plans to satisfy some community concerns as well as planning concerns.
Very well. Thank you, Jamie. That's what we like to hear. I will note that there are 5 letters of support. You probably have them all, and there are 2 emails of objection from Mr. or Hugh Liu and Inderpal Singh. So maybe you can reach out to those neighbors and see what their concerns are, if this matter does get deferred. Members, all those in support of a deferral? Okay, I don't see everyone's hands. Yeah, okay. The matter has been deferred. You'll see the Secretary Treasurer at your earliest convenience, and she'll get you back on the roster. All those who are in attendance today for application 086 of 2025 at 1075 John Laird Circle, please note that this matter will be deferred to an upcoming agenda, and you'll have a chance to speak to the matter once the changes have been made and a new application has come through. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
All right. Anyone else, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Madam Chair, I do not see any more hands up at this time.
Okay.
Oh, Madam Chair, I do see one now. I see one more hand up.
Okay, go ahead.
Hello?
Hi, who is this?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
My name is Alexander Kruglov. I'm a homeowner and resident at 2333 Cannon Ridge Circle.
And
So,
which application are you here for, sir?
it's for the file number A /081 /2025.
Okay, and are you the owner of 2341 Cannon Ridge, or you are a
No,
neighbor?
no, actually 2 houses down from the 2341. I
Okay,
live at
so
2333.
okay, so we haven't called this application yet.
Okay.
Are you looking to speak to this matter?
Yes.
Okay, so when we do call that application, which is the 3rd application on our agenda this evening, you'll have an opportunity to speak, and you can raise your hand at that time, and we will allow you to speak when it is the um, neighbor's turn to speak.
Okay, sounds good.
Okay, just hang tight. Thank you, Mr. Alexander. Anyone else, Madam Secretary Treasurer, who is seeking? We are looking now to take any requests for deferrals or withdrawals of applications before we take the first matter on our agenda.
No, Madam Chair, there are no more hands up.
Okay, very well. Then we will take the first item on our agenda, and that is application 079 of 2025 at 296 Alscott Crescent. Again, it's application 079 of 2025 at 296 Alscott Crescent. Go ahead, Mr. Hicks.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members. William Hicks with William Hicks Holding Company here with respect to 296 Alscott Crescent. Very simple application. There's an existing house. If I go to the next page with the site plan on it, the existing house meets the required 4.2 meter side yard setback at the front of the house, but the back of the house, because of the angulation of the property lines, does not meet it, so it's legal non-conforming, and we're adding a second floor on top of the existing house. So the portion that's shaded in red there is the portion that does not meet the required side yard setbacks. To set back the second floor structurally is virtually, well, it's not impossible, but it's very difficult. And really, we've got from the street, it meets all the requirements. Planning has reviewed it. They're in support of it. And I think that's as simple as the application is. I'm certainly happy to answer any questions. So,
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Hicks. Any questions for Mr. Hicks at this time? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay, then we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Price.
Taking into consideration the following: my site visit, the owner's report, the agent's presentation, Alton Conservation comments, as well as the town staff report, I believe the 4 steps have been met and the variance can be considered minor in nature. I agree with town staff that the addition has been designed to be incorporated within the proposed roof line and does not result in disproportionate increase in massing or cause the dwelling to be significantly larger than other buildings on the street. I also note there has been no objections by surrounding neighbors. In conclusion, I believe the proposed variance should be approved subject to the following conditions: that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated March 4th, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved. None opposed.
thank you, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Have a good
Have
evening.
a good night, Mr. Hicks.
Take care.
Okay. Application 080 at 11 Harborside Court. Again, that's application 080 at 2025 at 11 Harborside Court. I will note there is a 1 letter of objection from Marcin Parkitney, and 8 letters or emails of support from Mr. Mark McDonald and Nancy Baggio, Sylvia Ward, Philip and Stephanie Smith, Francoise Sinchwell, Suzanne and Bill Finkel, Lucy and Tom Murad, Angela Caldwell, and Sukim and Manny Candola, sorry. Mr. Barton, go ahead.
Thank you very much. My name is Michael Barton. I am the agent on behalf of the owner of 11 Harborside Court. I prepared the application and submitted the planning justification report. As you've heard, numerous letters of support were provided. So the owner did speak to all of the property owners on Harborside Court and shared the proposal, and they received support from all but one, letters of support from all but one of those homeowners, but did not receive any objections to what they were proposing. So as we've heard, the property is 11 Harborside Court. The proposal is for demolition of the existing 2-story dwelling and construction of a new dwelling, 2-story. It's been designed and situated on the property to provide a similar footprint and relationship to the street and the waterfront, as well as the adjacent properties. So the intent has been to design a context-sensitive dwelling that is appropriate for this lot and the surrounding neighborhood. So that's really been the intent with the dwelling. It's been designed with an architectural articulated roof line to add architectural character and variability to the built form and massing. And then the front garage projection has been incorporated into the overall building mass to help bring that projection in relative to what's there today. So there are 7 variances before the committee, for one for height, the minimum rear yard setback, the minimum front yard setback, the maximum floor area ratio, maximum lot coverage, to permit a second floor rear balcony, and to permit a front garage projection greater than 1.5 meters. So the property itself is irregular in shape. It has a curvilinear frontage along Harborside Court. And then the depth is shallower than the neighboring property at 9 Harborside because a block has been severed from the rear and then dedicated to the Harborside promenade at the rear. So that results in a reduced lot area of just under 560 square meters. The access is from Harborside via a curved driveway to the attached garage doors, which are oriented perpendicularly to the street. So there is a large surface area in the front yard that's used for the driveway and parking along the west side of the garage. And it's important to note there is a second floor rear balcony today on the current dwelling that runs along the entire rear wall. So in terms of the surrounding context, the neighborhood is characterized by single detached dwellings on individual lots, but there is considerable variability in the frontage, depth, and area characteristics of those lots, as well as the size and scale of the existing dwellings. The location of the subject property backing onto Lake Ontario and then being on a court results in there being only 2 adjacent properties, that at 9 Harborside and 12 Harborside. 9 Harborside is very irregular shaped that results in the dwelling being set back significantly further from the street than the dwelling that's on the subject property. So this provides a considerable amount of spatial separation and physical buffering from 11 Harborside, including its rear outdoor amenity area space. It's pretty much completely screened from view on the subject property. It's also important to note that the surrounding neighborhood includes a number of existing dwellings that have garage projections that are similar to the one that's on the house today, and that exceed the 1.5 meter zoning standard. And that includes 26 and 30 Harborside Court. With respect to a second floor rear balcony, as I mentioned, there is one on the current dwelling today along the entirety of the rear wall. There are also second floor rear balconies at 20 Harborside Court and 17 Mississauga Street, both of them back onto the waterfront. So in terms of the proposal, as I noted, the regular shape of the lot results in a narrowing of the lot towards the front at Harborside Court. So the dwelling has been designed with an attached garage that projects forward from the main wall, with the aim of being consistent with the footprint of the existing dwelling. But the prominence of that projection is being reduced by the extension of the second floor over the garage. And then there are large second floor windows that are helping to bring the garage into the overall form and massing of the dwelling. The dwelling has been designed to, as I indicated, to have a similar footprint in relationship to the street, waterfront, and adjacent properties. So the intent is not to disrupt the way this house relates to the street and waterfront relative to the existing dwelling. It's located, the projection of the garage is on the same side of the property, and it's next to the property, as I mentioned, at 9 Harborside, which has a significant amount of spatial separation and buffering. There's an articulated roof line that's meant to provide architectural character. So the majority of the height actually complies with the 9 meters, with only that central peak exceeding the maximum. And there's no windows or openings above the maximum height of 9 meters. And then with respect to the balcony, it's been designed to overlook the waterfront and is only for a portion of the rear wall, which is closest to that north property line shared with 9 Harborside, which is the one that has that significant spatial separation and screening. So in terms of the variances themselves and the tests of minor variance, my opinion is that they do meet the tests. When we look at policies under the Livable Oakville Plan, speaking to preserving, enhancing, protecting land use and built form character, my opinion is that the dwelling will do that. The proposal represents a change to the property, but it will preserve the character of the surrounding neighborhood, including its relationship to the public realm, waterfront, and adjacent properties. The proposed dwelling will be of a height, massing, form, and placement that maintains the character of the property and its relationship to the surrounding area. Because of its location on the waterfront with only 2 adjacent properties, this allows for a considerable amount of spatial separation and buffering to the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed height and design, including that garage projection and second floor area over the garage, helps to provide variability in the building mass and facade, as well as mitigating the overall scale of the dwelling. And then again, that the second floor balcony represents carrying forward an existing condition that exists here as well as other waterfront properties, and will benefit from that spatial and visual separation. In terms of the zoning bylaw, my opinion is the intent of regulating maximum building heights to ensure the height's compatible with the surrounding neighborhood, particularly adjacent dwellings. So as I noted, the variance is for 0.79 meters for a limited portion of the overall dwelling height, and there will be no windows or openings above the maximum permitted height. Again, same with the front yard setback, seeking to provide relatively consistent setback. What we see is that the proposed setback is consistent with what is on the property today, as well as what we see in the surrounding neighborhood. Similar with the rear yard setback, the purpose of regulating that is to ensure there's a relatively uniform and harmonious face of the rear walls throughout the property. And again, in my opinion, that's being provided through the proposal. Regulation of floor area and lot coverage is meant to ensure that there's an appropriate built form, scale, and massing relative to the size of the lot. So the dwelling itself will be similar height, massing, density, and scale to the existing dwelling and the other properties in the neighborhood. We have to take into consideration the lot area that's been reduced through that dedication of land at the rear of the property. So that's really what's driving the numbers that we see. But the dwelling itself is not of a scale or density that is out of character for the neighborhood. The intent of regulating a garage projection is to ensure that the garage does not become the most prominent feature of the dwelling. Again, we see today that there's a garage projection. My opinion is the proposed projection will be less prominent than the existing condition, and it will be consistent with other dwellings that are in the neighborhood. And then finally, with respect to the balcony projection, the intent there is to mitigate privacy and overlook impacts to the public realm and adjacent properties. This property benefits from its rear yard being on the waterfront and having no neighbor across the street. The dwelling will have substantial spatial separation and screening provided by its setback from the adjacent properties and then the waterfront to the rear. So my opinion is that those variances do maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. My opinion is that the variances are minor. They're going to result in neighborhood built form character that's consistent and compatible with the neighborhood. The building height and density will be appropriate for the neighborhood. And my opinion is that relative to the prevailing zoning standards, the requested variances are minor. And then finally, desirability. My opinion is that the variances will facilitate an appropriate redevelopment on this property that will be compatible with the existing uses in the neighborhood. Their variances are seeking to achieve built form, height, scaling, massing that is consistent with the dwelling on the property today, and then in the dwellings that are in the surrounding neighborhood. And the relationship of the property to the public realm and the surrounding area will be maintained. Again, so my opinion is that it is desirable for the development use of this property. So on that basis, my opinion is that the tests of minor variance are satisfied, and I would welcome any questions that you have.
Thank you, Mr. Barton. Are there any questions of Mr. Barton at this time by the committee members? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Barton, since this house was built, the town obviously chose to change certain provisions because they deemed them undesirable, being the balconies and the garage projection. Can you help me with how your application meets the intent of the bylaw when it appears that the intent was to prohibit exactly what you're proposing?
Yes, well, as I mentioned, the intent of the zoning bylaw in its most basic sense is to implement the livable Oakville plan. So the regulations are there to ensure that the dwelling is compatible with the neighborhood. And that's why I mentioned at the beginning that this has been designed with a context sensitive manner. So I would agree that in many cases, a balcony on the second floor can be problematic if you're looking into a rear yard of a neighboring property overlooking someone's outdoor amenity space. So in this case, if looking at again, there's the existing context and the plan context. We know that to the rear of this property will always be the waterfront. You're not going to be overlooking into a rear yard directly behind this property any time in the future. And then due to the configuration of the lots to the two adjacent lots that are 9 and 12, there's a significant amount of spatial separation that's provided. There's also an existing second-story balcony at number 12 Harborside. So I think when you take into consideration that context of this property, it's helping to mitigate those impacts, and it's also ensuring that by providing that second floor balcony on this dwelling, you're not resulting in a compatibility concern or something that does not reflect the character of the neighborhood. And the same would go with the garage projection. So in general, I would agree that it's not desirable to see the garage projecting from the front. And the reason being is the intent is you don't want the garage to dominate the massing of the dwelling. So we do see examples in the neighborhood of these projections today. The lot makes it difficult with that narrowing of the property at the front to accommodate without pushing it back. Again, you see the rear yard has been reduced by that dedication of land. So what has been done here is to reduce that projection that exists today in terms of its prominence from the dwelling by bringing the second floor over the garage. Now, what that does is it does increase the floor area, and that's part of the reason why you're seeing the floor area ratio where it's at, but that's helping to mitigate that impact. So I think for both of those, it comes down to how it relates to the character of the surrounding neighborhood and its context.
With the garage, you've turned it so now the garage door faces the street with what looks like a very awkward approach. Again, how is this making this a desirable situation? It would appear to me to be worse than what exists today.
Well, I guess it depends on your perspective. So I would say it makes it more desirable because you're driving straight in from the road now. So instead of having the front yard open space area largely taken by driveway, it provides more open space for landscaping. So the driveway itself is straight into the garage as opposed to that semicircle type configuration. And then the garage is, by bringing the house forward over the garage with the large windows, the appearance of the garage is reduced relative to it simply being a garage projection that stands alone. So I think it's helping to balance out the prominence of the garage and also reducing the amount of the front yard that's dedicated to parking and driveway access.
Thank you.
Mr. Dickey, you had your hand up.
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. Okay, you talked about the garage, you talked about the balcony. You've got a house that's substantially bigger than what the zoning bylaw allows. You've got lot coverage that is substantially more than what the zoning bylaw allows. Plus, you've got a rear yard setback that's shorter and a front yard setback that's shorter and a height that's greater. Like all the significant elements that one might say, individually, maybe some of that stuff would be, shall we say, acceptable or desirable or appropriate. But you push the limit. If somebody builds a house that's too big, but they can fit it on the lot without going for site yard and rear yard setbacks, that's something from my point of view that I say, okay, they're able to achieve that. But you're not achieving very much about the important things that the zoning bylaw sets out. So tell me something besides the garage. Why? Tell me something about the residential floor. Tell me something like, oh, some particular area is included. Not the stuff above the garage, because that's good space for the owner. But sometimes somebody comes along and says, for some crazy reason, part of the basement's included in the residential floor area. And therefore we look at that and we say, oh, okay, this is an unusual situation, so we'll allow it. Tell me something that's unusual about your lot that we should allow the larger residential floor area and the larger lot coverage. Please, thank you.
Absolutely. So, yes. So I think when you look at the lot configuration, it is an irregular lot. So you see it taper towards the front, and then you have that dedication of land at the rear. So that's reducing the lot area. So that's important because the lot coverage and the floor area ratio are directly driven by the lot area. So when you look at the size of the dwelling, its appearance from the street does not give you the sense that it would be proportionally larger than the same dwelling put on a larger lot with a greater rear yard. But then in that case, the lot area or the lot coverage and the floor area ratio would be reduced. Because you have a lot that backs onto the waterfront and you have the massing of that house oriented towards the street, and that the lost, if you want to call it the lost lot area due to that dedication, that's not apparent to someone at the street. They're not going to know that area that's behind the house has been removed from the lot and dedicated to the promenade. So the appearance of the house could be exactly the same. And if that dedicated land was still part of the lot coverage would be less and the floor area ratio would be less. In terms of where the house is situated, it's been designed to try and maintain a similar configuration to what's there today. So where the front yard setback is, where the rear yard setback is, those things have been sought to be maintained so to minimize disruptions to the neighborhood. So it's not meant to be a reduction to those yards to squeeze it. It's meant to try and maintain some relative form of harmony with what's on the property today. But the rear yard does that reduction in the rear yard by that dedication of land does limit the ability to push the house back much further to then increase the front yard. But then it would also result in front and rear yards that are not as consistent with the surrounding neighborhood and the existing conditions. So it's been a balancing act of those items. And then with respect to the height, as you'd mentioned, it's just important to note that it's only a small portion of the height that goes over the 9 meters. It's where the peak is at its greatest. It's where it gets to 9.79. So for the most part, the massing and dwelling, it should move towards the side yards, comes down below the 9 meters.
Did the land at the back that's been expropriated or dedicated to the town, was that done prior to the owner owning it, or when the owner bought it, was that land already excluded?
I'm not 100%. They've owned it for 14 years, so I'm not sure the timing of the dedication. But the owners may know. My feeling is that it would have been dedicated. They are here. I think they had registered to speak. I might want to just leave that to them. I'm not 100% at the time of the dedication of that land.
The new house bigger than the existing house?
Yes.
Is the lot coverage greater than that of the existing house?
Yes.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Tulowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Barton, I'm really struggling with your reliance on a previous dedication to justify your variances. If I heard you correctly, I should be able, but from your rationale, I should be able to build a house that fits and meets the zoning standards on a 150-foot deep lot on a 100-foot lot because I can't tell from the street how deep the lot is. That's what I understood your rationale to be, as to you should be able to use the dedication, then I should be able to use, because you can't see it from the street, then I should be able to use my neighbor's lot using the same rationale because I can't tell the difference from the street how deep it is. So I'm really struggling with how you're justifying a series of variances based on a land dedication that was a requirement of the town.
Well, I can explain that. I don't think I was clear on that. I wasn't trying to suggest that you could use neighboring property. What I'm speaking to is the unique context of this property. So it's a waterfront to the rear. It's not a residential property to the rear. So there is no property at the rear that would be experiencing the massing of this house. So that was that point with the dedication. And then the question around that I received from member Dickey was why the lot coverage and the floor area ratio specifically should be considered. And my point there was that they're directly driven by the lot area, not the appearance of the house. So my point is this house on a lot without that dedication would look exactly the same, except the numbers would be lower. So that is simply a point to establishing character of the surrounding neighborhood, not looking just at the numbers, but establishing if you looked at this home on the lot and you were walking the neighborhood, would it feel like this house was out of place in the neighborhood? And my opinion is that it wouldn't feel that it was out of place because the massing, as it's driven by lot coverage and floor area ratio, is largely due to the exclusion of that dedication at the rear along the waterfront. So that was the point I was trying to make, just strictly related to whether this feels like it's too big.
Thank you.
What's the existing house's square footage right now?
I'd have to check. I'm not sure that we provided that. I'd have to look. We do see an over on the site plan. You can see the dotted line of the existing footprint of the home. So we could. I don't believe we provided though what would be considered the accurate GFA of the current home.
But the new proposed one is a little over 3,200.
Yes, I'm just going to pull that up here.
I just wanted to know in comparison, what's the difference?
Yeah, I was just going to actually see if it just have one moment to see if I've got the measurement of the existing home. Yes, I don't have the owners could perhaps give it a more probably not like a zoning calculation of it, but a general sense of the floor area of the home. But I didn't have that on the current plans.
Okay, any further questions of Mr. Barton? Okay, let's take questions or comments from the neighbors. I do note the email or letter of objection. Has anyone called with interest to speak to this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Madam Chair, nobody has called, but I have a hand up. I believe it's the property owner.
Okay, and I do note that we have their letter on hand and that they wanted to speak, so go ahead and put them through.
Oh.
Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Fraser.
Hi there.
Um,
We're the homeowners. I'm Andrew Fraser. This is my wife, Kalpna Varshney. We've lived at the home for 14 years. We know this neighborhood well. We love this neighborhood. That's why we want to build our forever home so we can age in place here. We've really carefully designed a high quality, energy efficient home that complements the neighborhood. It doesn't dominate it. This house sits largely on the same footprint of the existing house. Um, we've kept our neighbors really well informed about our project. And so when we got the staff report like this past Friday, they were really pleased to support us with letters of support. Everybody on our street, except for one house, we have letters from. Regarding the person in the neighborhood who sent the dissenting letter, that's a new member of the neighborhood, and I'm disappointed they didn't reach out to us first to understand the project better. They weren't around when we went by their house on this weekend. However, their main concern seems to be about our project blocking their views to the lake and therefore lowering their property values. If they had have spoken to us before, they would realize that we're taking down a monstrous blue spruce tree, which is diseased and is in their direct sight lines. So actually their views to the lake will be quite a bit improved, and their property values by that rationale would be increased. So please to address any other questions. The existing square footage of our house is approximately 2,200 square feet plus garage.
And the reason for the driving into the garage is for aging purposes as well as safety purposes. I will have you know that a car was stolen last night from our immediate neighborhood. I feel unsafe parking outside my garage. Everyone that has a garage that they have to make that big turn in, like my current garage, parks outside the garage. Everyone on our street that has nice cars blocks them in with their less nice cars. This is the reason for one of the reasons for driving into the garage, because the way our garage currently is, we cannot drive into the garage.
And so the driving force behind our design was having a garage that was actually usable for two standard cars that we could drive into. Then you could go from the garage into an elevator that would take you into all three floors of the house. I know the pre-meeting they said, oh, you should just take the garage and slide it into the house. But the floor plan is locked by the garage and the placement of the elevator. It would be a complete redesign of the project to even attempt that, and I'm still not sure it would work and give us the desired result.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions of Mr. and Mrs. Andrews at this time? Sorry, Fraser. Okay, I see none. Has anyone else called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Very well, then we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to start the ball rolling? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I'm just not convinced that there's really been any attempt on the part of the applicant to even try to meet the letter of the law or the intent of the bylaw in this application. And I can't accept that you'd have to redesign the house as a justification or a test that we have to apply as to why this should be approved. The requests are for a number of items which the zoning bylaw has purposely been changed to avoid. I don't see how we can meet the intent. As Member Dickey said, just a series of variances doesn't seem to have been an attempt. As I've stated earlier, I don't accept the applicant's argument that because the lot's smaller than it might have been, used to be, as a justification to continue to use zoning standards on a lot that doesn't exist. I think you have to accept the lot that you have and deal with the zoning that comes with it. If you need variances, I believe there's an onus on the applicant to try to make it comply. I don't see that here. I do accept the landowner's comments that staff comments on tonight's agenda appear to be inconsistent, but that doesn't mean that their application deserves to be approved, meets the test of the Planning Act. I will note the letter of objection. A right to a view is something that I do not believe exists. Letters of support, which really don't go into explanation as to why they support the application. But Madam Chair, with that, I do agree with the planning staff, and I would recommend this application be denied.
Okay, the motion is to deny the application. All those in support? Okay. And the chair abstains. So the motion to deny has passed. I'm sorry, your application has failed. Thank you for your submissions. The next item on our agenda is application 081 at 2341 Cannon Ridge Circle. Again, this is application 081 of 2025 at 2341 Cannon Ridge Circle. The agent Manjinder Kaur.
Hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair and committee members. I hope everybody can hear me now.
Yes, we do. Go ahead.
Thank you. My name is Manjinder Kaur, and I'm the agent representing the homeowners of 231 Cannon Ridge Circle. We are proposing a second dwelling unit, an additional dwelling unit in the existing basement of the house, for which we needed to comply with the zoning bylaws for providing one additional car parking space on the driveway. We comply with the zoning bylaws. It's just that the existing driveway length is 5.5 meters, and wherever we need to have 5.7 meter length of the driveway, for which we applied under section 5.23A, and we are requesting the Committee of Adjustment to authorize a minor variance to permit the construction of an attached additional residential unit within the existing dwelling on subject property, proposing the following variance to zoning bylaw 2014. So our parking size on site is 2.7 meter wide and 5.5 meter in length. The planning staff is in our support, but we do have received objections from the community, for which we would like to have a response from the homeowner. If I am permitted to read out the letter, may I, Madam
Yes,
Chair?
go ahead. Go ahead.
Firstly, the homeowner would like to clarify the intent and scope of the project, which seems to have been widely misunderstood. The public notice issued as per Town of Oakville's legal requirement clearly states this notice is for a minor variance for construction of an attached additional residential unit within the existing dwelling. It appears that a misinterpretation of this notice, perhaps due to unfamiliarity with legal terminologies, has caused several misconceptions to circulate. To be absolutely clear, no external structure is being constructed. The unit is entirely within the existing structure of the house. There are no changes to the front or back of the house that would alter neighborhood streetscape or character. There is no reduction of driveway length beyond the minor 8-inch variance, which we have requested and is supported by the staff. No garage space is being converted into living quarters. There is no proposed increase in building footprint. As a resident and taxpayer of Oakville, the homeowner is exercising his legal right to apply for a minor variance and construct a legal basement unit in full compliance with local zoning, building, fire, and safety codes. He has paid the required application fees and have proceeded with the due diligence in following the established regulatory process. In response to individual concerns raised, Mr. Dwight Francis, there is no structure proposed outside the house. We are finishing the existing basement and proposing it as a second dwelling unit. Mr. Alex Kroglow, a legal basement apartment is by definition under town's
You're frozen.
required length, which is why a minor variance by planning staff. No garage spaces being converted. Mr. Steve Rowland, the basement entrance will be on the property itself in full compliance with town bylaws. No shared walkways will be used. Construction will occur during legal hours and parking provisions will comply with all municipal regulations. It will be on site. Assertions that a legal basement will result in traffic congestion or residential complex are speculative and not supported by law or planning regulations. Mr. Fansheng Meng and Mr. Jeff Bass, concerns about privacy violations due to a legal basement are unfounded. Residents of the basement unit do not have line of sight to the neighboring backyards or any more than the current above ground residents do. The city determines the zoning, neighborhood character, and what constitutes the reasonable use of property, not individual residents. Mr. Tazim Hassan, Mr. Ajay Lal, and signatories from Calloway, Gooseberry Way, and other streets. Please refer to the clarifications above. The property in question does not directly affect homes on adjacent in terms of structural or visual changes. The closing statement by the homeowner is, this legal basement is being constructed strictly within the framework of building and zoning bylaws, following all the necessary protocols established by Town of Oakville. The concerns raised while are understandable from a community awareness standpoint are largely based on misinterpretation, assumptions, or misinformation and do not reflect any breach of law or zoning regulation. Every homeowner in Town of Oakville is entitled to fair and equal treatment under municipal law. I respectfully request that my legal rights to make permitted improvements to my home be respected in the same spirit of fairness, equality, and due process. Should the town or committee requires any further clarification from the homeowner, he is available on in the meeting. Thank you.
Dr. Good.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and committee members.
Thank you. Are there any questions of the representatives or the homeowner by the committee members? Mr. Talowski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Not a question for the homeowner, but a question and clarification from staff. Ms. Buckerfield, forgive me if I lead the witness. The letters of objection, as I read them, don't speak to the variance. They speak to the fact that the applicant is going to add an accessory dwelling unit. I just think it would be helpful for the people who have written those objections to hear it from staff, but as my understanding, not only is the second dwelling unit permitted as of right, they actually could have 2 additional dwelling units as of right. They're not asking for a parking variance in terms of they don't have enough parking space for this additional unit. The only thing the committee is being asked to do, it's not being asked to approve accessory dwelling unit because that's already permitted as of right. The only thing the committee's being asked to do here is to recognize an existing situation where the driveway is inches shorter than the current bylaw.
Through you, Madam Chair, Mr. Telesky is correct that you can have 2 additional residential units within a dwelling. So you would have up to 3 separate residential units, and that's permitted under the Planning Act. Further to that, I did want to add a little bit of clarification that when this house was built, it was under zoning bylaw 1984-063, which permitted spaces to be a minimum dimension of 2.7 meters by 5.5 meters. And that's how these spaces originated. And now that they're going through the legal process of adding this additional residential unit in the basement, it's triggered compliance with zoning bylaw 2014-014, which requires a minimum of the 5.7 meters. So this is how they've gotten here. And if you have any other questions, let me know.
Thank you, Ms. Buckerfield. Are there any further questions or items of clarification? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is to the owner's consultant. Your sketch shows 3 parking spaces, and some of the owners the neighbors expressed concerns about parking. But why doesn't your sketch show the existing 2 parking spaces in the garage?
Committee members, we only have the owner of the property only have 1 car, and the second dwelling unit would need 1 car on the parking. It's just that like we have shown that it can accommodate 2 parking on driveway. It can accommodate, and there is like it's not that there will be 2 cars on the driveway. There will be only 1 car present. It is depicted in such a way showing that it can accommodate an additional car as well.
I'm sorry, you confused me a bit. Why didn't you just tell me again why you didn't call the second parking space in the garage a parking space? Because the owner just has one car? Is that why you're saying you didn't call it a parking space?
No, so the owner of the property only have 1 car. We have shown 3 parking spaces on the sketch, just to show that in garage also we have 2 car parking spaces, and then on driveway as well we have 2 car parking spaces available. But only 2 car parking at the moment are required by homeowner and the potential residents of the second dwelling unit.
Mr.
So there's
Dickey,
no reason.
Mr. Dickey, if I may, if I may interject for 1 second. I think where Mr. Dickey's going with this, do you have 2 car spaces in your garage right now, or is the second car space being utilized for storage or whatever?
No. We do have 2 car parking spaces in the garage.
Okay, so that's what Mr. Dickey is asking, why you didn't depict that you had 2 car spaces in your garage as it stands right now.
Okay, my apologies.
Did I get that correct, Mr. Dickey?
Yeah, thank you. It was just that neighbors were complaining about parking on the street. And if you have 4 parking spaces, which logically you would, we're just trying to clarify, is that's really the case? You do have 4 parking spaces.
Yes, we do have 4 car parking spaces.
Okay, thank you very much.
Any other questions or items of clarification? Okay. Madam Secretary Treasurer, there's a whole bunch of people on this list. I'm not even going to list all these 17 names, but I believe that the letter by the owner has addressed a lot of their concerns. Have anyone called with interest to speak to this application after the clarifications and this discussion?
Madam Chair, there have been no calls. I do see 1 hand up, though.
Okay.
One of the residents. I will move them in now.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, members, chair, and members of the committee. My name is Alexander Kruglo. Can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Kruglo.
Okay. So I'm the original owner living at 2333 Cannon Ridge Circle. So it's two houses down from the subject house of this adjustment application. So essentially, I speak on behalf of 29 homeowners living in Cannon Ridge Circle and Gooseberry Way, who are very concerned about the prospects of conversion of the single dwelling, single family home into multi-unit multi-unit rental property. So we sent a letter with 29 signatures to the town of Oakville and to the councilors Alan Elgar and Peter Longer. So in which we outlined the concerns the members have. It's a multiple concerns. And definitely one of the main concerns, it's the increased density, residential density, definitely will inevitably result in the insufficient parking space, because right now the owner or actually Madame Kaur speaks on behalf of the owner, says that the owner currently have one car, which is not, the owner is not prohibited to buy another one and use maybe few cars. And the same applies to the other people who will be living in the same property. However, the initial design of the subdivision and these properties does not presume that actually does not actually design to accommodate lots of cars within the same property. Normally only 4 cars. And it means that inevitably a larger number of people living in the same household will actually push the cars on the street. And the situation could be that actually this part of the street is always going to be occupied by the cars which did not have enough parking space or do not have enough parking space within the property. So this is one of the concerns. The other concerns definitely include that it basically can set a precedent within in this circle. Basically, this is a pretty distinct community, which has cherished living basically style, living lifestyle, as well as 29 homeowners are concerned about losing the basically. So essentially, the lifestyle will be changed. The well-being of the homeowners exactly is going to be also changed. Regarding going back to this parking, to the cars parked on the street, this is definitely raises concern about the safety of the children, of the pedestrians, of the elderly people, due to the increased traffic, due to limited space on the street for cars passing both ways when the cars are parked all the time. So it's definitely a concern of safety. Besides, the many other aspects of this change. So basically, the minor variance proposed in this adjustment is definitely, it's not the issue itself. The issue is that it is a precondition to allow the construction of this additional attached residential property. Not property, but dwelling. Not the same dwelling, unit.
Mr.
Okay.
Kruglo, I need you to understand that these units are within the rights of each homeowner. This is the new legislation because of the shortage of dwellings and housing situation in Ontario. So I can tell you that even in my neighborhood, we have several of these homes who have rental residential units in the basement. We can't stop that from happening. It's within the rights of each homeowner, including yourself. So it's just because you're representing all these homeowners, and if they're all listening, they have to understand that that is not the issue that is before us right now. We are not accepting or denying the building of this extra dwelling unit. The matter that's before the committee right now is just the simple dimensional technical variance about the length of the driveway. And with respect to the parking, they have ample parking on site. There's 2 inside, as Ms. Kerr clarified, as well as 2 outside, as clarification by Mr. Dickey's question. So how these dwelling units affect your neighborhood, we have no control over that, because that is one of the rights of every homeowner right now.
Respectfully, when you say we don't have a control over this, you actually put all the residents living or homeowners living in this neighborhood in the situation of having no say. So, but in the meantime, it's not the homeowners who actually purchase the houses here and care about these houses because they chose this lifestyle and would like to preserve this lifestyle. It's not them who decided this. Okay, so it's been imposed on these homeowners, and definitely homeowners are concerned that actually beyond all other subjects and basically a ramification of this construction, at the end of the road, it can affect the property value in this particular neighborhood, and this is also very serious concern of the homeowners. So, and essentially, when you say 4 parking spaces, okay, many houses in this area already have, I mean, living just a family, single family, they have already more than 4 cars, just a single family. If it's going to be few units in the same household, in the same unit, so actually the number of units could be much higher of cars. So that's why current number of cars, it's not actually gonna stay the same, most likely. And so that's why it cannot be discounted that, okay, they have like 4 parking spaces right now, and that is going to be sufficient. It's not a guarantee. And what is going to happen when these cars are going to be parked on the street? Who's going to be taking care of this? Town of Oakville? Because the cars have limited allowance for the parking, I mean time-wise, and so it's going to be lots of commotion, I mean, within this property. I'm not talking about the fact that it's going to be lots of inconvenience and noise related to the construction process and based on the proposed information, proposed layouts or whatever. So it's going to require heavy machinery to be used in order to dig into the ground and make a doorway into the foundation. So it's going to be a long-term construction, required heavy machinery, lots of construction workers, lots of construction trucks, etc., etc. Where they want to be parked, how it's going to affect the neighbors.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Krugel, for your submission. I'll let Ms. Skor reply to your concerns, and then we'll take the matter into committee, but we have noted all your concerns. Thank you. Ms. Skor, do you have anything additional to add before we take the matter into committee?
Just to clarify, any construction which will be done on site, the machines to dig out the entrance will be taken from the existing driveway, and will be used. The pathway will be used for the subject property. We will not be using any neighborhood property for the same.
I'm
Okay.
sorry, if I can speak.
No, this is the process that we have right now. You state all your submission, and then we move forward with taking it into the committee. So you have no more time, sir.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
Sorry, there is one more hand up.
Okay. Go ahead and invite the next person to speak.
Okay, I'm moving them in now.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi
Who is
there.
on?
Oh, sorry. My name is Andy, and I live next door to the house in question.
Your address, please, and your full name.
It's Andy, Andi. Last name is Bursack, Bursac, as it's shown on the screen.
Oh, perfect. I see you now.
Okay.
And your address?
2345 Cannon Ridge Circle.
45 Cannon Ridge Circle. Go ahead, Ms. Bursack.
So, yeah, I have so many concerns, just like Alex did, and I understand this is not the place where we take that opportunity. Will there be an opportunity for us to express our concerns about? I know now it's about the driveway, but will there be a moment when we can discuss what our issues are with the basement apartment next door? Or is it already approved?
Yeah, not on this platform. Not on this platform. This will have to be, Ms. Buckerfield, maybe you can weigh in on this. I think this has to come from a legislation point of view in terms of changing those laws. But go ahead, Ms. Buckerfield.
Through you, Madam Chair, so the permission for additional residential units is actually at the Planning Act level, so that's at the provincial government level. So if you do have concerns, you can reach out to your provincial representative or to the Premier to express those concerns with the permissions that have been put in place.
Okay.
My name is Stephen Roll, and I just have a question
He's my
about
husband.
The construction that's going to be going on. Are we dealing with heavy diggers? You mentioned that some of these, whether bulldozers are going to be coming up along the side of our house, along the other side, on the north side or the south side. That's what I'd like to know. How is the construction and the building of this basement apartment and the digging going to interfere with our lifestyle when it comes to outdoors? Is it going to cause a lot of noise? With the variance, is there going to be digging with that? Like, I'm not really sure about all this. I've had discussions before with others about when someone's changing the lines on their property, but I'm just curious about the construction that's going to be related to it. If someone could explain that to me.
That we can answer. Ms. Kerr can comment on that, and she can give you the specifics about how they plan on doing. Go ahead, Ms. Kerr.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So basically, for digging, we will be only doing 4 feet below the ground. So that is done by small machines, not big bulldozers, and it will be taken from the driveway to the backyard from the side pathway of the property. And for digging, they just take maximum like 2 hours. And apart from that, internal renovation is there for the basement. No external work is there, so there won't be any noise which can disturb the neighborhood, I believe, because the walls of the house are insulated, and there is no chance that the neighborhood will be affected by that. The digging is not like for the full house. It is just for like 4 feet wide entrance, and the digging will only be below 4 feet. So it will not affect any neighboring property.
I disagree with that because I've seen construction that's being built in our areas. Will it be accessed through the north side of the house or the south side is what I'm interested in, because we have a 2-foot adjustment out from our fireplace at the side.
From the north side of the house. I can.
When the tenants move in, will their walkway be on the north side or the south side of the house?
South side of the house.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm assuming that the air conditioner will be removed then.
Yes. It will be removed.
Okay, we have an adjustment that's out about 2 feet that's going to cause a bit of a problem as well for that. Will there be a fence going along that entranceway? Will there be a fence erected at the side of the house?
Not at the moment. The owner has decided to put any fence.
He has not decided to put a fence?
No, we have the. I can introduce the homeowner at the moment. He can answer these questions. He's right with me.
Okay.
If
We'd like to know
if Madam Chair allows.
Okay, I would prefer that we don't go back and forth like this because that's not part of our procedure. And if you can just list all your concerns, Mr. and Mrs. Versac, and then we'll give the owner the chance to go through them all. I would appreciate that. So I've noted down that you have concerns with respect to the walkway when the new tenants are moving in terms of machinery.
Yeah, there are a lot of concerns. And I mean, obviously, we've had 15 letters of opposition, I believe it was. So there are a lot of concerns, and not just us. I know that this isn't the forum.
No, and I just want everyone to understand, if do you all have basements? So you've gone through making your basement, like finishing your basement. That's typically what this is going to be like, with the exception that there's going to be an external entrance, typically like that goes down so that there's another entrance versus going through the hole.
Fully understand that, yes.
So
We've had tenants there for a good 5-6 years. It hasn't been a positive experience. So, this is why we have a lot of concerns.
Our concern is that the current homeowner, since 2015, has owned the home. And in the last 5 years, we had neighbors that didn't adhere to, obviously, the community standards. Our concern is that if this is going to be built, is that homeowner going to be staying there? Or is that homeowner going to be leaving and turning it into a rental complex, which it's been since we've moved here since 2010. That's our concern too.
The homeowner will be occupying the main dwelling unit. That is for sure.
And how many apartments are in the basement?
Just one apartment, one bedroom apartment actually. So not more than 2 occupants in the basement.
All right. And no Airbnb-ing like the last people?
No.
That never been
you weren't here, so we were here for the last 5 years.
They were quite certain it was an Airbnb.
Yeah. That's our concern. If it is, we'll take that up later.
Yeah, we will definitely carry it further.
Are you still going to introduce the owner, Ms. Kaur? Because this is getting...
yeah, that's fine. No, we're done. I appreciate your time, everybody. Thank you.
Okay, so we've answered your concerns in terms of the machinery and the walkway.
Sure, yeah.
Okay. Are there any other members of the community that want to address this matter, Madam Secretary Treasurer, before we take it into committee?
Yes, Madam Chair, I do have another one. I will move Jeff Liu in. One moment.
Okay, I would just like to remind everyone that would like to speak that we do not repeat the same points again, and I will start being strict about the 5-minute maximum for the presentations, where the committee has noted all the concerns thus far. If you have further things to add, by all means, you're welcome to, and we appreciate your submissions. So go ahead, Mr. Jeff.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
sorry, my camera may have the problem. Yeah,
That's okay.
I'm the homeowner and the 2337. Yeah, before, I sent the, the letter, the clearly strong objection this proposal. And also I strong support my neighbor Alex and Andy's. So yeah, my concern is just, stress again. My concern is, because this is, raise a serious concern under Planning Act. One is the safety, the second is the capability. Capability is, does not reflect the original low density, single family zoning and the character of our community. And the transparency, because, project detail, into my perspective remain unclear, and the neighbor, were not meaningfully informed and consulted. We need to consult with, the agents, the lawyer. So for, consider this, I strongly, object to this proposal. Yeah. And also my concern, mentioned, this property, we concern, if there is a, renting, continue renting, because over the several years, there's a renting, so bring the many the problem. Yeah. So yeah, so thanks for committee, allowed to, express the comments and concerns, really concerns.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Bates. Anyone else, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there are no more hands up.
Okay. We'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to start the discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to acknowledge the neighbors' concern, for there seems to be concerns over there being tenants there in the past and things that have happened in the past. As we pointed out, the applicant is not coming before us to get permission to build second or to convert their basement into an apartment. They have that legal right to do that, and have had that legal right to do that for a few years, possibly 3 or 4 years. And some of my other committee members can correct me if that's wrong as far as the number of years. No question that they've had that right for a while. All that they're coming before us is to say we have a parking space, or 2 parking spaces that are too short. And none of the neighbors in their comments, and we talked about parking, but I don't think anybody ever said, oh, this having a parking space that short is too short. And just to address that situation, us committee members have been involved in other situations, and in many cases it's in apartment buildings where they're coming forward and saying the underground parking spaces, some of them are too short. And we've seen studies to show that a number of different styles of cars can fit in those short parking spaces. So the real issue here is the depth of the parking space. And based upon my experience, the depth of the parking space at being 0.2 meters, 0.2 of a meter shorter is not a major concern. It's a minor thing. It's appropriate and everything else. That building, those houses were built with that apart. All of you probably have parking spaces that short, or maybe that's a bad assumption, but it could be that many of you have parking spaces that short. And so the issue is not relative to the actual aspect of the apartment being converted there. I can understand your concerns, but unfortunately that's beyond our control. So having said all that, based on my review of the owner's application, the site plans, and my site visit, together with the planning staff's report, etc., and also acknowledging the neighbor's concerns, but I am satisfied that the variance is minor in nature and conforms to the 4 tests of the Planning Act, and I put forth a motion that the application as applied for be approved, subject to the conditions that
there's only one. The approval expires within 2 years.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay. Oh, wait a minute. So that the subject to conditions, the approval expires within 2 years from the date of this decision.
Okay. Then the building permit not issued or proposed construction started.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Madam Chair. Didn't have it in front of me.
That's okay. I got it. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Okay, I see none. All those in support? Okay, the application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you, Madam Chair and committee members.
Okay, have a good evening, everyone. Thank you for your submissions. The next item on our agenda is application 082 of 2025 at 59 Cudmore Road. Again, that's application 082 of 2025 at 59 Cudmore Road. I have Darren Sandra Smith as the agent.
Present.
Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Good evening, Madam Chair, committee members. My name is Darren Sanger Smith, Structured Creations. I am the acting agent for Jennifer Patterson, the owner at 59 Cudmore. I'm before you tonight to request the approval for or relief from variance for 7 variances. We have been in discussions with planning staff, and I understand that they are in support of 5 of the 7 variances. These 5 variances, I believe, are minor in nature. One of them is for height, which is for the existing ridge or the proposed ridge to match with the existing ridge. The second variance is for garage projection. We've minimized this garage projection by adding an addition to the south end of the property, which will pull that face out and be more of the primary elevation. The third variance is for garage size. We have maintained a garage size that complies. However, there's a small hallway that gains access from the garage into the door to the actual house, and that increases the square footage ever so slightly. We're also providing or requesting a relief for the projection of the roof over the garage. This is just aesthetics. It's to allow for some corbelling and some bracketing that will match some detailing that we're doing on the new addition on the south side of the property. And then finally, relief for front yard setback. The front yard setback is for the garage addition on the north side of the property. We've kept that in line with the adjacent neighbor. We're only about a foot or so in front of them. And the house itself is actually substantially further back from the adjacent neighbor to the south of us. I have been in touch with several neighbors. We did receive 2 letters of support from the neighbors to the north, and no real concerns from any of the other neighbors, although no one really wanted to get into signing a letter for us. We are understanding that the planning department is not in support of the 2 variances that we have for the terrace above the garage. I have spoken with my client on this, and we are prepared to remove that terrace from the application, to remove those 2 variances if the committee and staff are acceptable to that, to allow us to proceed with our application and its approval. I'm open to any questions that the committee may have, and thank you very much.
Okay. Questions for Mr. Smith? Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. You may have heard the discussion on one of the previous applications about the projecting garage. I'm struggling with, and I'm going to ask staff the same question. Committee didn't find favor there. Staff didn't find favor there. Yet if I read the proposal correctly, you're asking to bring the garage projection further out into the front yard. And if you could help me understand why we should find that to be desirable and meeting the intent of the bylaw.
Of course. As per the existing design, there's an approximately 8-meter difference between the front of the building and the existing garage. So the projection is substantially greater. The addition that we're proposing on the south side of the building is pulling that addition out to make the projection of the garage and minimize it. We are proposing to put a walkout from the basement up to the side yard, which is pushing the garage out another 3 or 4 feet. I extended the addition on the south side of the building intentionally to minimize the impact of the garage projection and thus cutting it almost in half from what its existing conditions are. So I do realize that we are going for a garage projection, but I am trying to minimize that impact by pulling the south addition forward to make more of in line with each other. Understanding that we did pull the garage forward, but that was to accommodate and maintain a basement entrance and a legal sized garage for 2 parking spaces. So I realize that we are going for that variance, but I believe that we've actually minimized its impact with the addition to the south.
Okay, thank you. And if I can ask Mr. Westerhoff, you know, the previous applicant called out staff on their inconsistencies between that application and this application, both for garage projections. I'd like to hear from staff as to why they believe this projection meets the intent of the bylaw.
Thank you for that question. And through you, Chair, just to reiterate actually what Mr. Sanger-Smith said, he has brought forward a 1-story element on the opposite side of that projection. That is a mitigating feature that helps to reduce the visual impact of that projecting garage. It's actually a sort of key feature that's included in the urban design guidelines for stable residential communities in the town of Oakville. And that does help balance. And that's what it does, is it balances this projection with another sort of primary wall of the dwelling. And with respect to inconsistencies, I believe that staff have been consistent. While these applications might appear similar just based on the zoning tables, they are actually quite different in their effect and the context of the proposed dwellings for each different property.
So unlike the previous application where it was just a one-sided projection, I think if I'm hearing correctly, because the applicant's creating more of a courtyard effect, it's a mitigating factor in this case.
Through you, Chair, I would frame it more as the balance. The balance is kind of what we're sort of in the urban design guidelines is what this speaks to as a mitigating measure for garage projections. I will also note that staff did object to the inclusion of a rooftop terrace as well as a balcony due to overlook concerns. And within the report, there are comments provided on, while it is not necessarily a full 2nd story feature that is being brought forward as well, it is usable area on top of that garage, which does have, a similar effect. So there's some consistency there with where the objections do lie between the two.
Thank you. It's helpful.
Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We covered off a few things. I just wanted to ask a question about the height. Not quite sure which part or all of the roof is above the height line. Could you describe that to me in some?
Certainly. We had an actual surveyor document the existing height elevation, so we know we're pretty accurate on this. The existing ridge of the house, which runs north-south and is the main roof of the house, is set at 0.9, I believe it's 0.97 meters higher. We are tying the roof that extends south over the addition, and in line with that, it's basically just extending that existing roof line down towards the south. And that is the portion that is above the allowable height. It ties into the existing conditions.
Part of the roof is existing at 9.9, and you're just carrying that forward for architectural reasons.
That's correct.
That wasn't my question. My real question is, part of the roof is existing at 9 point.
That's correct.
9 point. Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions or items of clarification? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay, very well. Let's take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Zalski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. After having listened to the presentation and the rationale provided by both the applicant and town staff, I felt it was important to understand the difference between this application and the previous one, particularly since it was called out in a letter to the committee. With the rationale provided, I do believe that this application is minor in nature. It is a refinement of an existing house, which actually will provide likely a better scenario than the existing condition, and that additional care that's gone into it will actually mitigate the variance in question. And I also would note that the height is a small portion addition of it to an existing roof, which I don't believe in that sense, because it is largely existing, will cause any negative impacts. I would note that on this application, we do have 2 letters of support, no letters of objection. And so, Madam Chair, I would move this application be approved with the removal of variances 2 and 3, as the applicant has already done. So I would move the application be approved as amended, subject to 2 conditions: that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings as modified to remove the rooftop terrace to the satisfaction of the Director of Planning and Development, and that the approval expires within 2 years if a building permit hasn't been issued.
Sorry, is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? And the application has been approved as amended, and none opposed. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and committee members. Have a nice night.
Have a good night. Application 083 of 2025 at 2200 Trafalgar Road. Again, that's application 083 of 2025 at 2200 Trafalgar Road. I have here Andrew Hannaford and Oz Kamal as the agents.
It's just myself this evening. Good evening, members of the committee.
Good evening. Go ahead, Mr. Hannaford.
Thank you. I do have a presentation. However, I will be brief and ask the committee if you'd like to see the presentation. My name is Andrew Hannaford. I'm an associate with MHBC Planning. Here on behalf of our client, 2637582 Ontario Incorporated, for their property located at 2200 Trafalgar Road. This application seeks a single variance to permit a small, single-story addition at the rear of the existing building. We have reviewed the staff comments on this application and are in agreement with the recommendation for approval before you. We request that the committee approve the proposed variance because we do believe it meets the 4 tests. With that, and to be brief, I would ask the committee if you'd like to see the presentation, or I can stop there and just answer any questions.
I think for the benefit of the public, you should do the presentation and run through it. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Next slide, please. So the subject property is located on the west side of Trafalgar Road, south of the intersection with Glen Ashton Drive, and with a total site area of 3,599 square meters. The site is currently occupied by a 1.5-story building containing a daycare and medical offices. The site is accessed via a single driveway from Trafalgar Road, with surface parking provided along the east side of the site. Next slide, please. The site is, our client proposes a single-story addition to the rear of the existing building. The addition would comprise 660 square feet. The addition is intended to accommodate additional offices for the current medical office use and will be accessed via the current entrance from the north face of the building, which is facing the parking lot on the right side of your screen. As part of the addition, the parking and driveway configuration is to be revised to accommodate additional parking, additional drive aisle width, and additional landscape buffer width. Through our collaboration with town staff, internal sidewalks are also proposed to be extended from along the internal driveway to both building entrances and out to the municipal sidewalk on Trafalgar, improving the site's connectivity. While the primary goal of this addition is to increase the usable space within the building, the associated site works, including reconfiguration of the parking lot, additional landscape buffer, and new pedestrian walkways, will significantly improve the existing site conditions and improve the relationship between the site and Trafalgar Road. Next slide, please. We are requesting the approval of 1 variance from this committee to enable this development. The site is currently zoned future development within bylaw 2014-014, which permits all legal uses of land existing on the lot as of the effective date of the bylaw, and further permits increases to the legally existing floor area to a maximum of 10%. The legally existing building has a total floor area of 4,421 square feet. The proposed addition will comprise 660 square feet. This is a total increase in floor area of 14.93%, which represents a 4.93% increase above what is permitted within the future development zone. This variance is to permit a floor area increase to a maximum of 15%, whereas a maximum of 10% is permitted as a right. Next slide, please. With regard to the 4 tests under the Planning Act, which must be met for variances to be approved, the site is designated neighborhood commercial within the Livable Oakville Plan, which permits the existing daycare and medical office uses. The intent, as stated in the OP, is that the designation primarily services the local needs of adjacent neighborhoods. Both the existing uses on site serve the needs of the surrounding neighborhood and have done so for many years, with the daycare first being licensed in 1995. The proposed addition will allow for these uses to continue to modestly expand to meet the needs of the surrounding neighborhood. The proposed 660 square foot addition represents a modest 14.93% increase in floor area to the existing structure and maintains the general intent and purpose of the OP, allowing the existing uses to continue to serve the adjacent neighborhoods. Next slide, please. With respect to the second test, whether the variance meets the intent and purpose of the bylaw, the site is zoned future development, which permits legal uses of land existing as of the date of the bylaw. The existing uses on site predate the current zoning bylaw and are legally existing. The FD zone permits increases to a maximum of 10% floor area and a maximum 10% lot coverage. This, based on the proposed addition of 660 square feet, this is an increase in floor area of 14.93% and in lot coverage of only 1.6%. The intent of the floor area increase provisions is for the future development zone is to ensure that any proposed large-scale redevelopments are through site-specific rezoning applications. The maximum permitted increase in floor area and lot coverage of 10% is to allow for the existing uses to continue to operate and expand as necessary until such time as a larger redevelopment of the site is proposed. The proposed increase in floor area of only 4.93% above the bylaw permissions will allow for the existing uses on site to modestly expand and continue to serve the neighborhood. With the exception of this increase in floor area, all other regulations of the FD zone are met with the proposed development. The proposed variance therefore maintains the intent and purpose of the bylaw. And next slide, please. With respect to the third test, whether the variance is desirable and appropriate, The proposed addition to the existing building will allow for expansion of the existing medical office use and is desirable and appropriate for these lands. In addition to providing additional space for these uses to expand and serve the community, the related site improvements include landscaping, pedestrian connections, and parking reconfiguration to improve the relationship of the site to Trafalgar Road. The zoning allows for minor expansions to existing uses, as is proposed, in order to ensure that the uses are able to continue and businesses can grow to serve the community. Next slide, please. The final test, whether the variance is minor in nature. The increase in floor area is minor in nature and will not result in any unacceptable or adverse impacts on the subject lands or surrounding area. This variance is necessary to permit the growth of the existing medical office use and has been designed in a manner which otherwise meets all applicable zone standards and improves the site configuration, as I stated, parking layout, landscaping, etc. Next slide, please. In conclusion, we respectfully request that the committee consider our application for variance, taking into account the existing context of the building and the 4 tests outlined in the Planning Act. We believe the requested variance to permit a minor increase in floor area meets all of those 4 tests. Thank you for your time, and I'm available to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you. Are there any questions of Mr. Hannaford at this time? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay, then we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Ms. Bryce.
Okay, taking into consideration the owner's report, the agent's presentation, and the town staff report, I believe the 4 steps have been met and the variance is minor in nature. I agree with the town staff that the addition is a modest expansion that will support existing uses. I also note that there's been no objections by surrounding neighbors. In conclusion, I believe the proposed variance should be approved subject to the following conditions. That the dwelling be constructed in a general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawing as dated March 13th, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued by the proposed construction.
Thank you, Ms. Price. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? See none. All those in support? Okay, your application has been approved, none opposed.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
Apologies, Madam Chair. Just wanted to clarify that the conditions should be the building versus a dwelling.
Oh, sorry.
Wanted to add that clarity, and I apologize for the delay.
Yeah, building. Miss, also you caught that, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so it's application 084 of 2025 at 358 Pinehurst Drive. Again, that's application 084 of 2025 at 358 Pinehurst Drive. I have Mr. O'Brien here as the agent. Is the agent for Pinehurst in attendance? Or should we table the application?
Madam Chair, he's there. Mr. Brian O'Brien.
There we go. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mr. O'Brien, yes.
Hi, good evening, committee chair and committee members. My name is Brian O'Brien. I'm the architect and agent for Agnes Zukowski and Nick Plaskos at 358 Pinehurst Drive. This work involves a 1955 bungalow that Nick and Agnes purchased with the intent of saving, restoring, and enhancing, and in which they plan to remain to raise their family. This proposal is intended simply to make the house more useful, and we'd argue more beautiful. Our proposal seeks to maintain the character of the existing bungalow and then to use that form as a base from which to provide a rather small interior expansion. The work involves 4 primary components. One is to enclose the existing breezeway between the house and the garage and to utilize that space. 2 is to reconstruct the current addition that's at the south side of the house that is simply poorly built and will rebuild in place. 3 is to extend the already raised bedroom wing with small cantilevers at the front and the rear of the building. And 4 is to add a basement access at the rear of the house. The property's irregular shape essentially creates variances that we think wouldn't necessarily exist otherwise. In all 3 cases, our variance requests are related to the setbacks that result from that irregularity. Noting that our zoning pre-consultation presented no objections, which is consistent with the committee report, as well as the fact that the previously approved application was quite similar in these respects, we believe the variances to be very minor in nature. With that, I appreciate your time. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. O'Brien. Are there any questions of Mr. O'Brien at this time? Okay. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
I think it's time that I remind everyone about the phone number. I haven't done that. If you're interested in an application, please call 905-815-6095, and staff will be standing by to take your call, provide you with further instructions to join the video conferencing. Okay, if there are no questions or items of clarification, we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Based on my review of the owner's application, site plan, building elevations, my site visit, presentation by the owner's consultant, and the planning staff's report, I am satisfied that the variances are minor in nature and conform to the 4 tests under the Planning Act. And I put forth a motion that the application as applied for be approved, subject to the condition that the dwelling be constructed in general accordance with the submitted site plan and elevation drawings dated April 10th, 2025, and that the approval expires 2 years from the date of the decision if a building permit has not been issued for the proposed construction.
Very well. Thank you, Mr. Dickey. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support? Very well. None opposed. Your application has been approved.
Appreciate it. Thank you. Have a good night.
Have a good evening. Okay. Application CV 085 at 416 Lakeshore Road West. Again, that's application 085 of 2025 at 416 Lakeshore Road West.
Hi, committee and chair. Am I good to speak now?
Yes, go ahead, Ms. Negru.
Hi, so I'm speaking from Line Design Studio, representing my client, Samir Shafik, at 416 Lakeshore Road West for the town of Oakville. And we have prepared a short rendering presentation to propose an increase of the maximum encroachment in the rear yard to 9.9 meters into the minimum rear yard. And before I explain further, I'd like to present the rendering on the next slide. If we're able to play. So here is our 3D rendering of what we are proposing. In the rear yard, we have a slant towards the back side in which we'd like to propose this deck, which would be on the even plane with the rest of the yard, allowing the family a greater exposure in the backyard. And as you can see, there are trees surrounding the backyard as well, so there would be no adverse effects to the abutting properties or neighborhoods, and there have been no objections. The staff report also indicates that all 4 tests have been met and that the variance is minor in nature with no cause for concern. So with no much more to say, this is our proposal. And on the next slide, we have some more images of this 3D rendering to allow the committee a better understanding of what our client would like to construct in the rear yard with this minor variance.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or items of clarification at this time? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Your renderings show there's just grassed lawns or fields in the backyard. There's no houses. In
Yes.
the backyard, the houses, the property behind you. Do you have a picture showing, looking from the back of your property, just showing me the property behind from the view?
The property images are in the report. We don't have them in our rendering. The 3D rendering just shows the proposed deck, but in the report, there should be an image that shows the properties behind the backyard.
So you're building, there's something about a grade. Oh, okay, so I see a photo where you have a sliding glass door. It looks to be possibly at the basement level. So is this deck going in that along that lower? It's going to be an extension of the deck at that higher level, the level equal to the ground floor, and therefore it's going to be above where that sliding glass door is that's in the basement?
Yes, below the deck, it should be pretty even to the walkout basement, and the above portion of the deck, as you can see, will be even with the grass proportion. And in the backyard, we do have trees, which act as a fence to the backside.
Plain and simple. You got a big backyard. Why do you need to put your deck right there and extend it so far back? Like, what's in the rest of the? Oh, it doesn't really matter, perhaps. Explain to me why this is necessary to do that and expand your deck into the encroaching into the rear yard setback.
It's simply because there's a slant towards the rear side, so we think it would be a better use of the space, considering that there's a walkout and a slant, that we could provide more space to the homeowner to use the deck in that efficient manner rather than stretch it towards the more lateral aspect of the house rather than going deep into the backyard, because the lateral aspect would be more difficult without the slanting, if that makes sense. Because I'm just to confirm.
Again?
I'm concerned about it being 2 feet away from the rear lot line. Like that's substantially close. You've got a deck, so it's going to be how high above? It's going to be a deck that not just 2 feet above, like the 0.6. I'm sorry, 0.6 meters is about 2 feet, but that deck is going to be substantially higher than the elevation at the rear lot line. Is that correct? Tell me what the height is.
Sorry, 1 second. I'm just trying to open up the plan drawing.
Can staff put up
Yes, so just to confirm, it is with, oh, sorry. I'm so sorry, Madam Chair. Please continue.
I was just asking staff to put up the rendering while you're explaining it so that we can take a look at it.
Yes, and just to confirm that even at the end, the height will be at level with the backyard. It will not be higher than the backyard grading, if that was the question.
Well, I'm looking at a rear elevation. Maybe I've got this wrong, and I apologize if it is. I'm looking at the rear elevation drawing.
Mm-hmm.
And I see a set of steps, maybe 7 or 8 steps going up. And on the left side of that drawing, I'm assuming that's the deck you're building, and it seems to be 9 feet above the grade level.
The grade level, the higher point of the deck is 3 feet 6 inches above the grade level. I don't know where the 9 feet is coming from.
Well, I think we better show that up, because on the sketch I'm looking at, rear elevation, it says grade level at the bottom.
Yes,
the bottom. Go ahead.
Sorry, I was just saying that there is also a grade level on the right side of the image, which is what the slant I'm talking about. That because it slants towards that end of the backyard, that it's more efficient to create a deck towards that end so that we can use the lower grade level as well as the higher grade level in conjunction.
Okay, let me back up. So if I were to go onto your property and walk along the west side of the property to the back corner, would the grade level be the grade level that it's showing there being the lower, or would it be something different? Because it's telling me there. I'm wondering if that grade level and the deck won't be 9 feet above that rear west corner's grade level.
Yes, the rear west grade level will be 9 feet below the deck, as you can see on the left side of that image.
So the neighbor sitting to the south is going to look at that and see a deck that's 9 feet higher than that rear corner of your property.
From the below grade level, yes, it will be 9 feet above, but from the backyard grade level that will be visible to anyone watching into the backyard, it will only be 3 feet 6 from the grade level to the right. And there's trees in the backyard as well, which will also prevent other neighbors from directly viewing the deck in the first place, because there should be no visible adverse effects to any other properties. As you can also see in the images, there are large green trees in the backyard that act as a fence from the viewing into the backyard.
Well, I disagree. The fact that the deck is 9 feet above grade, visually, you're going to have noise projecting more so than if it was that grade. The trees are going to be smaller at the top. But anyway, that's my... Anyhow, okay, thank you very much. I've got enough questions.
So as I understand it from the rendering, your deck is going to be at the main level, and you have the walkout basement underneath. Correct?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay. Any other questions? Items of clarification. Mr. Tulowski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I share the same concerns of Member Dickey. It's kind of brings up the question in my mind, when does the deck become a balcony? The only reason this is a deck is because it's coming off the main floor. If this was coming off the second floor, 9 feet above grade, it'd be considered a balcony and not permitted outright. The situation we have here is there's a walkout condition at the west side of this property over which this deck is being proposed, and because of that, it's considered a deck. The property to the west from my site visit does not look like the open green field in the rendering. I think that's a little misleading. Not only is there a backyard and adjacent coach house, but I believe property to the west is even lower than the grade of this one. So it will probably appear as greater than 9 feet in the air. So I just, please help me explain how this is desirable to extend such a large distance into the backyard and so close to the adjacent owners when the condition that it's creating is the exact same condition that a balcony creates, even though this isn't a balcony.
I understand your regards about it being similar to a balcony given the 9 feet grading level, but I think in this situation we should also consider that there's a secondary grading level to the right, which is only 3 feet below the deck that we have. And as for, again, for the concerns of the neighboring properties, there are trees surrounding, and similarly how one would sit in their backyard in a patio set, the homeowner seeks the same advantage on this deck to just simply hang out with their family in the backyard on a summer day and enjoy their time, with the trees acting as a visible protection to the property and other properties to not allow visibility into the deck. And I understand that the rendering did not show those properties. It was not an intention to mislead the committee. We were just trying to show the proposed deck, and we did not have other properties rendered around it given our short notice on the presentation.
Madam Chair, you're on mute.
Thank you. Thank you. So the existing brick wall and steps, those will remain, or are those being torn down?
There's an existing guardrail, but there will be the new wooden stair steps that lead onto the deck. As you can see in the green highlight of the proposed rear deck elevation drawing.
Any other questions? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
We do have somebody with their hand up. Scott Casson. I believe he's in the meeting now.
Go ahead, Mr. Scott. Can you name and address for the record, please?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Al Bond, and I reside at 420 Lakeshore Road West. And as the members pointed out, I live to the adjacent property to the west, and I'm somewhat confused as to what is intended and how it's going to impact my property. I guess as an initial thought, the scale of the deck or the balcony, whatever you call it, and the level of the encroachment doesn't seem to me to be a minor variance. I think it deserves more consideration. I'm on the property to the west, and I think Mr. Taluski was very good at mentioning it's not green space, it's my home. And along this property edge are 25 or 30-year-old cedar trees. These cedar trees were planted, I believe, on my property. In order to build the deck or the balcony that my neighbor would like to do, these trees will be damaged significantly. They encroach probably 6 feet onto his property. They are beautiful, mature cedar trees. If he is allowed to build, and I don't understand how he can build within 2 feet of the property line, those cedar trees will have to be shaved straight down by 4 feet, which will kill them, which is a big consideration for me. In addition to that, I'm going to be looking up at a deck that's 9 or 10 feet up in the air. I have a patio there. It destroys my privacy. I can't say I would enjoy looking at that deck. I can't say that I don't know underneath the deck what kind of architecture would make it a reasonable appearance. But I am seriously concerned about my cedar trees, and I don't know what the setback requirements are in the city. I'm not a planner. I can't believe that the city in an area like ours would allow someone to build within 2 feet of a property line. I think that's probably my concerns. Again, the members pointed it out. The elevation seems to be unreasonable. The scale of the deck or the balcony seems unreasonable. I still believe in a layman's viewpoint, it's not a minor variance and probably should have more consideration. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Bond. I'll let Ms. Mangu respond. I too have a follow-up question after that. Go ahead.
Thank you, Scott, for your concerns.
Sorry. Ms. Mangu, go ahead.
Yes. Thank you, Mr. Scott, for your concerns. I'll respect your concerns, first of all. As for the trees, there is a tree plant protection agreement that homeowners do sign when doing construction, and we promise to not destroy the trees during the construction process. and we can evaluate how much the cedar trees impede into the construction.
Okay.
And also,
Yeah.
There's a lot of chatter. Can we please respect the platform and just put ourselves on mute when someone else is speaking? Thank you. Go ahead, Ms. Bang.
Yeah, so continuing with the trees and the width of the trees, we can confirm that we will not be destroying the trees during the construction process. As for the 9-foot concerns, we do have to remember that it goes deep into the property and it's not an elevation from the rest of the backyard above 9 feet, which would allow easy, convenient viewing into our neighborhood property. So given that the tree's height and that it's almost at the same grading level as the rest of the rear yard, we will not be conveniently viewing into our neighbor's backyard and their patio. Similarly, we expect the same for our deck, that there would not be any convenient visibility into our deck as well. And another reason for the 9-foot increase in elevation is that when there are individuals entering the walkout basement, we want an adequate height for people to walk through that area without them having to shorten or bend over. So that is why we'd like a 9 feet height elevation from that grade level to allow convenient walk through from that area onto the west side.
Have you considered using the portion in front of the porch versus moving it all the way to the west side? There's ample space for a deck there without having it to be directly on top of the walkway into the basement. Ms. Bangu?
Sorry, yes. The goal for that was given the existing retaining wall and working with that rather than pushing over to that side, as that would also ask for greater elevation. So then we would go beyond the 3 foot 6 inches height and create a higher deck, which I think would serve as more adverse effects to our neighboring properties, as we would have to raise the deck further if we bring it towards the existing porch.
You wouldn't need to raise the deck because it's at the same elevation as the unless I'm looking at this in the wrong. Okay, that's fine. Mr. Telsky, you had something else to say? Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the applicant, Mr. Casson indicated that he felt the existing bushes went several feet, I think he said 6 into your client's property. A quick Google Street View would seem to support that the cedar bushes extend further in, but I guess simple question, have you done an arborist report to tell you that you can put a deck 2 feet off the property line and not impact these trees?
No, we have yet not done an arborist report for the 2 feet.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Okay, I see none. Has anyone called with interest to this for this other than Servant for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no other calls or hands up.
Okay, very well. Then we'll take the matter into committee. Oh, Ms. Buckerfield, you had something to say?
Through you, Madam Chair, thank you. Before you go into committee, I just wanted to clarify that my colleague prepared the comments and I wanted to update the condition. Instead of saying, if you were to use the condition, instead of saying dwelling, uncovered platform would be the terminology to be used.
Uncovered platform. Okay. Now we can take it into committee. Ms. Banger, you had your hand up before we take the matter into committee. Did you have something to say?
Yes, I'd just like to confirm if it would help the committee in our proposal, we would be willing to take on that report and create any other adjustments that the committee may deem necessary to make this approval more fit and more adequate to the bylaw.
Sorry, I'm not following. Can you repeat that again?
As one of the members had asked if we had done an arborist report, I was just saying that we would be willing to do that report and follow up with any considerations that the members may have that we should follow to allow this to be approved. We would be willing to comply with those actions if necessary.
Okay, thank you for that. All right, we'll take the matter into committee. Who would like to start the discussion? Go ahead, Mr. Tlowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, plain and simple, allowing a 9-foot high deck with essentially no side or rear yard setback does not meet the intent of the zoning bylaw, and in my opinion, under no circumstance could be considered to be desirable. Again, using a cedar hedge as justification as why you won't see it without an arborist report to justify or indicate that there will be no damage to the cedar hedge. 9 feet of those cedars, which will now be under a deck, are likely inclined to die, as the neighbor has indicated. Madam Chair, in no way can I find this application is minor in nature, does not meet the test of the Planning Act. I'll note that there was no support or opposition, or no support from the community, opposition from the immediate neighbor, who in my view would be the most impacted. So Madam Chair, I'm just going to recommend this application be denied.
Okay. Is there a discussion on this application? Sorry, a discussion on this recommendation? I see none. All those in support of the application being denied? Okay, the application has been denied. Thank you for your time. Okay. Application 033 of 2025 deferred from March 5th of 2025 at 2289 Chancery Lane West. Again, that's application 033 of 2025 deferred from March the 5th at 2289 Chancery Lane West. I have Mr. or Mrs. Sudan as the agent. Oh, no. The agent is Mr. Rekmetaljan. Okay, Mr. Cheeseman, go ahead.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. Can you hear me?
Go ahead, Mr. Cheeseman.
Wonderful. Thank you, Madam Chair. I am the solicitor representing Shiv Sudan, the owner of the property at 2289 Chancery Lane. We're here before you this evening seeking one variance to the bylaw, which is an increase the maximum dwelling depth to 26.54 meters, which is an increase of 6.54 meters over the permitted 20 meters in the bylaw. This matter was deferred from the March the 5th meeting, and I can inform the committee that I was retained just on the eve of that March 5th meeting. And since that time, we've gone up and done some additional work. You should have before you a planning report prepared by SGL Planning. That was prepared by David Riley, who was the author. That is at page 138 of your agenda tonight. And there's also been a package of additional comments that were provided, I think, yesterday or the day before, that were submitted, but somehow were left out of the agenda. There are letters of support, and those letters of support are from all neighbors in the immediate area. As you're aware, because I'm sure you've been out to see the site, 2289 Chancery Lane is in that enclave off of Bennington Gate and Chancery Lane. Chancery Lane isn't connected to Chancery East and Chancery West. All of the Bennington Gate properties are accessed via the private laneway known as Stones Lane. And this lot was created through the process at the Ontario Municipal Board back in 2003, and I was part and parcel of that process. I was on for residents in the area of Bennington Gate along the south side. Just want to point out to you too that the lot that we're talking about tonight at 2289 Chancery Lane was created out of the lot at 2318, which is immediately to the north. It was the severed lot, and additionally, as part and parcel of that application, there was a block that was set aside for the extension of Chancery Lane along the bottom. So the actual address is on Chancery Lane. The building has been built and constructed so that it looks like it fronts on Chancery Lane. I think the best place for you to look at it would be to look at the SGL planning report, and if we go to I guess page 141, which is a photo C in that report. I'm looking at photo C. Keep going. Sorry. Yeah, okay, that's photo C. So that's the view. The building is currently under construction, and you can see that what we're speaking about is in the bottom left corner of the building on photo C. That's the existing. Well, that's the porch that we now propose to cover. And once you cover so the building length really doesn't change. The porch is there. It's the fact that it is now proposed to be covered that triggers the bylaw and violates the definition of building length. And if you go to the next page, photo D, there's a close-up of that was taken. You can see that the porch is there, and the covering in the photo D at the top, that would be, I guess, the thing that offends the bylaw insofar as it makes the building length measurable to the back corner of that porch. I've seen the staff comments that were prepared by staff that recommended that the matter be turned down, and Mr. Riley's report, the SGL report, at page 138. I'm going to go to that, and I'm going to just bear with me 1 second. I want to go to my own version. I don't need you to do anything, I don't think. So I've got to find it. Sorry. I apologize. Here's the agenda package. Love technology, especially when I can't use it. All right. Mr. Riley, in this report, walks through the history of the property, explains on page 3 of that report how the lot came into existence, and he notes at page 3, and this is something you should take into account, is in the staff report it refers to the fact that this building was cited and was shown as a concept plan before the Ontario Municipal Board, but how it was going to be oriented on the lot, and there was concern that was expressed about it not extending into the front yard of the property, the remainder property at 2318 Bennington Gate. And in the staff report that was prepared, you'll see that there's a diagram taken out of that OMB decision that shows the relative location of those two buildings. And I would point out to you, and Mr. Riley points out here, it's relevant to note that the dwelling that existed at 2318 Bennington Gate at the time of the OMB decision in 2003 no longer exists. So it got torn down in the intervening years, and a new building has been erected, and that building is currently under construction on the property. And if you visited it, the property, you would have seen that. And I think it really comes down in the analysis. Mr. Riley walks through the 4 tests under Section 45, 1 of the Planning Act, and he differs completely from the opinion of your staff. And I would point out, I think that your staff relies really on the test of the minor variance and the design guideline tests. And if you look to figure 3, which is at page 146 of your agenda in the SGL report, that's the aerial photo that shows the location of the lot and Stones Lane and the buildings that are there. And then if you go to figure 4, I think it really sums up the issue. Mr. Riley has imposed the line, the building line along Stones Lane. That's the yellow line. And you'll see that the length of the building at 2389 Chancery Lane, and as you can see it in the back corner, there's a black box. That's the porch area that's going to be built, and the cover is just going to be over that little tiny portion. But that increases the building length. But if you look along that line, the yellow line that is imposed, it lines up with the adjacent. It doesn't extend into 2318's front yard, being the Stones Lane portion, nor does it extend into the front yard of the property next to that to the north. And then you can see that the property that actually fronts on Bennington already is sort of in front of the portions of the houses behind on Stones Lane. And the large home at the end of Bennington Gate, which exists already, extends into that street line that they express interest in the staff report. So if you go through the report, you'll see that Mr. Riley, at page 11 of that report, which is page 148, speaks to that fact and says in the third full paragraph, further, town staff's statement does not consider the setback condition of the other dwellings with adjacency to Stones Lane as shown in figure 4, which are all situated closer to Stones Lane than the rear covered porch on the subject property. 2 of the key defining elements of character along Stones Lane include the extensive mature vegetation and wide separation distance between dwellings. The proposed change will not impact these elements of character. Mature vegetation will remain and will not be affected by the proposed variance, providing extensive screening of the dwelling and covered porch from Stones Lane and neighboring properties. In fact, when you get down into that enclave back on the lots that are immediately adjacent to the lake, you wouldn't know any other dwellings existed around you. The vegetation is that thick. So he points out on page 12 that the approved dwelling on the subject property includes the porch in the rear yard, and the proposed change relating to the variance request for an increase in the maximum building depth would have the effect of permitting the porch to be covered. That's the difference. As the porch is only 1 story in height and with significant setbacks that exist from the porch to the neighboring dwellings, there are no adverse impacts associated with privacy or overlook. That's his conclusion. And he says it meets the general intent and purpose of the official plan to that end. He speaks to the zoning bylaw, says exactly the same thing. He says it's appropriate for the development of lands, and he says it's minors because there are no adverse impact. So I would ask you to rely on Mr. Riley's planning justification letter insofar as that he maintains that it meets the 4 tests. I would also point out that the neighbors in the area, everybody in the enclave, you'll see from the additional package, have all shown their support for this application. There's nobody opposed to it. I believe that's probably because nobody will really see it. Has no objection to it. There are no impacts to anybody in the area, and that's why I put it to you that they're in support. So in my final submission to you, I would ask you to find that the application before you meets the 4 tests under Section 45(1) of the Planning Act, and allow the variance as requested. I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Mr. Cheeseman. Any questions, items of clarification? Go ahead, Mr. Telowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you for that, Mr. Cheeseman. It's informative. So your presentation, I know, changes some of my mindset I think it's clear the OMB decision and thus the zoning bylaw, the intent was that the houses not project into each other's opposite yards. Where I'm struggling is we have a drawing superimposed on an air photo from Mr. Riley. I'm looking at a picture that Mr. Riley suggests that it doesn't extend or nominally in front of the house to the north. There's a picture on an angle, admittedly, in the staff report that makes it look like the porch extends further than what's shown on the air photo into the front yard of the adjacent property. I guess it's an equal question to the applicant and staff. Do we have a survey that actually shows the two properties as opposed to a photograph and a superimposed air photo? But I think
Sir,
that's key to
I can advise you that we haven't got a survey that would show that the building itself and the porch itself right now without the cover meets the bylaw. So that building is there. I just want to point that out. So it's really just the cover we're talking. When you put the cover on top of it, it counts the building length. If I take the cover off, I don't need a variance, but nothing changes. That it's that kind of a unique situation. So if something extends a little bit beyond the street line or the property line of Stones Lane, like if you're walking down Stones Lane, when you notice it one way or the other, you know it's a strangely shaped configuration because it really does face Chancery Lane. The front of the front of the building. That's the way that the city wanted it in 2003 to make sure that when Chancery Lane gets built, it reflects Chancery Lane. So if you look at it from Stones Road, what is our rear would really be the frontage. That's just an anomaly because of the way the lot got created back in 2003. Everybody knew it was going to be there. Everybody knows that Chancery Lane at some point, someday, is going to be extended through. And when it does, nothing will change. This will be a side. It'll look more like a side yard from Chancery and a flankage, because Stones Lane won't ever. Well, Stones Lane will still come down to Chancery. It's an anomaly. It's a little pocket, and the only people, I put it to you, who would be affected by it are the people in this enclave, because I'm sure it doesn't get a lot of traffic. Stones Lane is a private road, and if you come down Chancery at either end, from the west end of Chancery, you can't see it at all. From the east end of Chancery, you can't see it at all. From the west end of Chancery, it's got its access off of that point, but it's a very oblique viewpoint that the public would have today off Chancery. So I don't think there's really any impact one way or the other, sir.
Mr. Cheeseman, I would suggest that there is a difference between a patio and a covered porch with a half wall.
Sir, it's not a patio, sir. It's a porch. It's a porch. And that's what it was. That's what it's shown as on the approved drawings, and that's what was approved. So all we're talking about now is covering it, sir. It's not a patio.
I guess what I'm asking for, and I don't think it exists, is proof as to whether or not this covered patio extends beyond the front wall of the adjacent house to the north.
And sir, I would have thought, sir, if the committee attended the site, which I know is your norm, you'd be able to look down Stones Lane and actually see that it doesn't. I mean, at best it comes out and meets the frontage of the property next to it. It does not extend any. I mean, if it's out an inch, it may be out an inch. I agree. It's a line on an aerial photo. I hear you, but I don't think one way or the other, especially with the fact that the neighbors in the area, one next door, houses are under construction. Nobody's objecting to this. None of them see it as an impact on them. If they did, they'd be here.
Any other questions or items of clarification? Okay. Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
No, Madam Chair, there have been no calls.
Okay, thank you. We'll take the matter into committee then. Who would like to move a motion? Okay, I'll give everyone a minute.
Madam Chair,
Mr. Salsky.
forgive me for what I'm about to do. Um,
I know where that one's going.
I'm going to ask the applicant, what's another deferral? I find Mr. Cheeseman's argument compelling that the intent of the OMB decision was that it not exceed beyond the house. That house is gone. There's another house there. I think the intent survives, but I don't have the information tonight to be able to understand what the situation is. And so I can't see approving this. I don't think it should be denied, but so I'm going to ask the applicant whether they'd be willing to consider a further deferral to come back to the committee with an actual survey showing the as-built condition relationship between the two properties and the dwellings on them.
It's up to Mr. Cheeseman and the applicant, but I would have liked to have them come more prepared. I mean, they're pros and they've been before the committee many times. So,
Madam Chair, we brought you a staff report that wasn't here the last time. We used our deferral well to go out and get neighbor support within the alcove, within the community, the enclave, and to prepare a staff report by a very reputable planning firm that indicates what their position is on this. My member Toloski wants a survey. I guess he can defer to ask for one. And my client, I can't reach my client. He's not in the country tonight. But I can take it back and see what he wants to do.
the thing is, you would have to make a decision to formally request the deferral. If you don't want that, then you're asking Mr. Tulowski to defer it. That's something else.
I'm in your hands, Madam Chair.
Madam Chair, I think we're in the applicant's hand. The applicant can choose to defer, or the applicant can choose to have the committee make a decision.
I've got no instructions to defer, Madam Chair.
Okay, then we'll proceed with the matter at hand. Who wants to move a motion other than
Well, Madam Chair, I don't have the information I need to be able to determine whether this is a minor variance. I'm disappointed the applicant didn't take opportunity to defer, but seeing that I don't have the information to determine that it is minor, I cannot conclude that it meets the four tests of the Planning Act, and therefore would recommend the application be denied.
Very well. Is there a discussion on this recommendation? Okay, I see none. All those in support of the denial? Okay, the application has been denied.
Thank you much.
Thank you. Have a good night. All right. The last application on our agenda tonight is application 072 of 2025, deferred from May the 28th at 227 Beech Tree Crescent. Again, that's 072 of 2025, deferred from May the 28th at 227 Beech Tree Crescent. I have Brian Hudson here as the agent. Is Mr. Hudson with us?
Madam Chair, I'm just trying to move him into the meeting. It's just taking a few minutes there. Here.
No problem. Go ahead, Mr. Hudson. You have to unmute yourself.
There, can you hear me now?
Yes, go ahead.
So my apologies for that. Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the committee. My name is Brian Hudson, and I'm here tonight on behalf of the owners of the property located at 227 Beech Tree Crescent. In order to maintain an existing deck, we are seeking relief in the form of a minor variance from zoning bylaw 2014-014 currently in effect. Specifically, the minor variance requested is to the required rear yard setback, which is set at 7.0 meters, and we are proposing a rear yard setback of 3.79 meters. The current home is a two-story single-family dwelling, and the project is a deck that is constructed in the rear yard of the residence. The deck consists of a single-level platform, approximately 57 square meters in size. It is at the level of the walkout from the kitchen on the ground floor that it serves. It is equipped with a full privacy screen on the east side and a partial screen on the west, and it has a retractable louvered canopy above it, so the space can be enjoyed during inclement weather. This deck was originally built under permit number 24-158516, but revisions made during construction to increase privacy for the owners and their neighbors on either side changed the classification of the previously permitted easterly screen to a wall, and under bylaw 2014-014, screens are allowed to encroach into a required rear yard setback, whereas walls are not. The screen in question was included in the original deck design after a neighbor requested removal of the original hedge that provided privacy over both properties. The issue with the rear setback is a result of the infill of that screen, which was done to reinstate that privacy for both parties. We are aware of some of the concerns voiced by our neighbors regarding the construction of the deck and would like to address those now. Regarding aesthetics and privacy, we note that in the neighbor's letter of objection, they state that the screen blocks their view. My client and his wife have 6 daughters and a swimming pool in the yard, which the family enjoys. They wanted additional privacy to limit overlook for their family once the previous hedge was removed. The screen is just over 12 feet high, taken from the established grade, and 9'6" from the level of the deck, which is the ground floor level. Also, the roof that's described is actually a retractable louvered screen, not a solid structure. The deck was professionally designed and constructed with the building permit by licensed contractors. The screens are finished on both sides to diminish any negative impact on the neighbors' properties while increasing the overall privacy of the homeowners and their neighbors. The construction size and placement of the deck, except for the rear setback, is completely within the requirements of the current zoning bylaw, and as mentioned, a permit to construct was already issued. Regarding property values, I'm not in real estate. I can't professionally speak to that positively or negatively, but my experience has been such that property improvements of this kind have had no effect in either way on neighboring properties. And in terms of precedent, there are already several instances in place, including a large covered structure at 242 Milkweed Way that set the bar for the neighborhood. I note that in the comments put forth by the Planning and Development Department, they say rear yards appear to be utilized in a similar manner throughout the neighborhood as the subject land, with pools, decks, gazebos, patios, and landscaped areas. As previously mentioned, the issue here is that the structure's easterly screen, now classified as a wall, encroaches upon the rear yard setback. Its height and proximity to the side yards do comply with the zoning bylaws in place. In closing, while we understand and respect the concerns of our neighbors, we feel that none of the objections submitted address the variance to the rear yard setback that we are seeking. We believe that the requested variance meets the 4 criteria for approval, that it is minor in nature, desirable for the appropriate development of the land, that the general intent of the zoning bylaw is maintained, and that the general purpose and intent of the official plan is maintained. We ask that you consider our deputation and approve our request. Thank you. I welcome questions.
Are there any questions of Mr. Hudson? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
This was approved or whatever as a deck, and you put it became covered. Is that, if I got that right?
Well, there were, it was originally approved as a deck with 2 privacy screens, and it had a covered retractable or louvered roof in the original permit plan. And then once the trees were removed on the east side, the privacy became an issue. So the homeowner wanted to infill that screen a little, and that's what caused the issue.
The neighbors they're saying there's a 15-foot high wall there. It's really only 12 feet. Is that 12 feet from grade?
It's 12 feet
to get the accuracy of the things here.
Yes, it is 12 feet from established grade. Yes.
That's to the top of to the covered the roof. We're talking about louvered roof or whatever.
Yes, the top of the louvered roof.
And just, I'm sorry, there's the pictures to show, maybe they were the neighbor's complaint, to show the wall. I see them. It looks like a wall. Looks like beveled wall. Maybe
it has been classified as a wall, which is what changed the rear yard setback requirement.
Okay, if it wasn't for the fact that this imposed into the rear yard, you wouldn't have this. You'd have a wall there, but you wouldn't have this. You wouldn't be before.
Correct.
So in other words, I just meant everything would have been okay. The neighbors seem to be, and I'm sure they'll come and correct me, seem to be concerned about the wall. And the issue is the extension into the rear yard. And so that just makes the wall deeper in from their view. Okay, thanks. That clarifies a few things. Thank you.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Mr. Talowski.
Thank you, Madam Chair. If I could ask a question of Mr. Hassan. The application is variance for a covered porch. The applicant is saying it's not the roof that's causing the variance, it's the wall. Could you clarify that for me, please?
The issue.
That was a question for staff.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Through Madam Chair to Member Tulowski, if you read the actual table of the variance itself, since it's all connected to the dwelling and forms part of the dwelling, it's defined as a deck, a covered platform. But since it kind of lends itself to being an addition, the requested variance is to the regulation for the dwelling. So the rear yard setback is for the dwelling. So since it's all connected and becomes part and parcel of the dwelling, that's what the variance is for. So it changes the structure of the deck going to more of an addition, and that's where the regulation kicks in.
And so, Mr. Hassan, at what point does a covered platform become an addition? Because from the neighboring perspective, it looks like an addition to me. Yet staff are supporting the application.
Yeah, so through Madam Chair, again, it would be the covered portion of the roof piece that changes it from an uncovered platform or a deck to the addition itself. The description of the application is as the applicant has applied for it to be a deck. But since there's the awnings in place, that's what the definition lends itself to.
And just one last question, if you can help me, Mr. Hassan. I find this concerning in the staff report. It says that staff are of the opinion the general intent and purpose of the zoning bylaws maintained since the deck allows for outdoor amenity space. We're talking about a setback, and staff are saying so you don't need to worry about the setback if you provide an outdoor amenity space. That just doesn't sit right with me. Are we dealing with the provision of amenity space, or are we dealing with compliance with a setback?
So through you, Madam Chair, in terms of the comments that were provided, staff were trying to explain that this area itself can be used on a seasonal basis. There is still space in the rear yard in front of this area that is grassed and landscaped, which additionally has space for the existing hedge. And based on air photos, it appears that they were planted back in 2012, so they've been in existence for quite some time and do provide a significant amount of screening and landscaping. As Mr. Hudge had said, unfortunately, the hedge on the eastern property line was removed, likely because they wouldn't have survived the demolition of the existing patio that was there and the construction of the new one. But the area itself is still being utilized as outdoor amenity space, even if this area wasn't covered. It's not internal to the dwelling; it's external to the dwelling in the rear yard as far as amenity space goes. The only difference, the only other difference that I could offer would be that this is dissimilar to a sunroom that we often see variance applications for, that would be fully enclosed and accessible to the dwelling as another additional room, or an expansion to a kitchen, or an expansion to a living room. This is external area that could potentially be also considered as the function of a cabana would be in a rear yard.
But the structure in question will be there 12 months of the year, whether it's used or not, correct?
Correct, yeah, it would be there, yeah.
Thank you.
And you said that the roof is retractable?
Yes, it is. It's louvered. There are louvers that are open and closed.
Any other questions? Has anyone called with interest for this application, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, Madam Chair, we have two residents here that would like to speak. We have a phone call, if you want to get to that one first. It's from Martin Gladue. I'll ask him to unmute.
Yeah, go ahead.
Hello, this is Martin Gladue. Can you hear me?
Yes.
The points I'd like to bring are the first one is the person who's building this is a person who's got 30 years experience since 1985, according to their own website of building decks. They own the deck store. They sell franchises to the deck store across Ontario. Can you hear me?
Yes, I'm following.
And then when I looked at the application, they showed the elements under construction. This has been complete for, I would say, at least 6 months. I'd have to ask my neighbor across the street. But my biggest concern is that it seems to be misleading, in my opinion, the application. And there should be a level of experience when it comes to understanding kind of the level of permits required for this type of deck. I physically had friends with the neighbor that lived in the house before. The elevated portion of the patio was the steps coming out the door probably measured 2 by 10, then stairs went down to the ground level. I would say it would be at least 6 feet down. And on the ground level, there was a hot tub in the corner and all of these elements. My concern seeing it is the setting of a precedence at that level and that height above the first floor of the building, which I would say is at least 6 feet above ground level, that us living across the street, setting the precedent, if my neighbors were to do that, because I live at 244, right across the street, it would completely box in our backyards with the way that the houses are set back. So my concerns is to lay them out. Certainly the level that it's misleading. The person who's applying for this is someone that has 40 years plus experience creating backyards and decks around the neighborhood and beyond across Canada with his franchises. Right? They ought to. And then, yes, the precedence and how it can potentially infect the neighboring house. Thank you.
Thank you for your submission. Anyone else, Madam Secretary Treasurer?
Yes, Madam Chair, we do have another person with their hand up.
Okay,
I don't know if you would like to do the motion. We're approaching 10 o'clock. Did you want to move a motion?
Yeah, I wasn't keeping my eye out on the clock. Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Motion to extend for another half hour past 10 p.m. And if we need it, we'll extend some more. All those in favor? Okay. I don't see everyone's hands. Ms. Price. Okay. All right. Motion carried. We extend to 10:30.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We do have another caller, Brian Beedman.
Go ahead, Mr.
Ask him to
Beedman.
unmute.
Please unmute yourself.
Yeah, he didn't get the call back. Sorry, I just got a.
Is this Mr. Gladue still?
Yeah, sorry, I'm going to mute myself, but I got a text. He didn't get a call from Zoom, so he's trying to call the clerk right now. I'll mute myself.
All right,
thanks.
thank you.
Madam Chair, in the meantime, we do have another person with their hand up. Would you like to?
Let's proceed with that person until Mr. Beedman is able to rejoin us.
Okay, I'm just moving him in.
So, Mr. Hudson, I'd like you to note these concerns because you'll have to answer for them in a few moments when we've gone through all the interested parties. Mr. Chow, go ahead. Am I pronouncing that correctly? Mr. Sao?
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead.
Yeah. Good evening, everyone. My name is Shao Chuncao. I am the homeowner of 223 Beach Tree Crescent, and I am the immediate neighbor on the right.
Okay.
This is the extension with the closed roof has been already built. It is a tall and huge construction structure with an area about 600 square feet. It is not a minor variance. It is more like a deck that it's too big and it changes the grading and the look of the neighborhood. Jen, can you show the picture deck 3 named? Yeah. So from this picture, you can see this solid wall, which is taken from my backyard. And this solid wall is about 16 feet long. And from the ground to the top, it's about, I imagine, it's about 15 feet high. So, and about 8 feet above my fence, above the top of my fence, 8 feet from the top to the top of the roof. So, and also the three opening, the proposal for openings, it's not openings, it's glass, it's three glass windows. And also, there is a fireplace installed in this wall. And let me see. Can you show the deck full photo, Jen? Thank you. Yeah, this picture is taken from my master bedroom. So you can see from this photo, the distance between my property line and the wall is about, I think, just about 2 feet. It's so close. And also, you see in the back line of the fence, there is tall trees. So the backyard neighbors, they don't see this structure. That's why that's maybe the reason they support this project, because they don't see. But I see, you see very, very ugly from my backyard. And some friends and the neighbors were surprised by such weird, huge structure when they saw the wall from my backyard. This means people could build the similar things in their backyard if the city allows such construction. This would cause big mess in the neighborhood of Oakville. 6 homeowners in the neighborhood already sent their individual objections. But at the same time, we have a signed objection letter. Jen, can you show that objection letter? Yeah. After having seen the real structure or the photos I just talked about, 26 homeowners of our neighborhood signed the objection letter. 20 of them from Beechtree Crescent, which is my street, and 2 from Milky Way, 3 from Milkweed Way, 2 from Nautica, 1 from Great Lake Boulevard. Most of homeowners on Beechtree Crescent have a common thing against this variance because they have seen the real structure, are most impacted by the structure. It will have negative impact on the value of the neighboring properties, especially my property. I would have to build a similar thing in order to keep the value of my property. It affects the enjoyment of neighboring properties, especially my property, because it looks very ugly from my backyard, as you see, and blocks our view and the sunlight. I noticed the applicant put a supporting letter signed by 11 homeowners, 10 from the homeowners on the Milkweed Way, 1 from Nautica Boulevard. This letter dated June 1st. Because they did not see the real structure, they did not know what it was. However, no homeowners from my street, which is a Beechtree Crescent, signed the supporting letter because they could see the structure from my backyard. 2 homeowners on the Milkway who signed the supporting letter for the applicant told my wife that they did not know the situation. They just signed the letter. So we asked the committee to decline this variance request. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for you. The oh, he left. It's okay. Mr. Chow, if there was the hedge, if the hedge continued to be there instead of, at your property line, and you wouldn't be able to see that part of the structure, would you be okay with that?
I don't understand what's your question.
Like right now, the hedge was removed to make room for this wall or that privacy screening. If there was,
you mean remove like the solid wall?
Yeah, if behind the solid wall there was screening, like green evergreens, like the ones that are in the front, would that be something that you would be okay with?
But that also will affect my privacy because the deck is so high.
Okay, so your issue is with more the height than the privacy screening.
That's right.
Okay, thank you. I have a question for Mr. Hudson, but go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm looking at the photograph that one of the neighbors, I assume it's this neighbor, sent, and then looking at the drawings, and the leader, and maybe the owner's agent can correct me if I'm wrong. There seems to be in the drawings that there's pillars coming down, separating the beveled slat. But that doesn't appear to be the case in what's existing there. Am I reading something wrong, or what? The drawings don't indicate what is in the photo that the neighbor provided.
Oh, there was a change to that design. We originally, what you see was there, we infilled it. The neighbor, through talks with the town, we understood that we needed to keep the openings, or at least not have a solid wall. So we added the windows, and that design got changed. I guess the drawing did not get updated at that point.
Well, I think the wall, as it's built, as shown by the neighbor's photo, much more imposing and overbearing than the wall that is shown in the drawing. I think with those pillars going top to bottom, that would break up the wall and maybe make it look not so dominant.
That's something we could certainly consider.
I'm just saying that it doesn't. It looks much worse than the drawing. You've got something that's built. Like, what's going on here?
Mm-hmm. I also have another question. Why did you have to raise it towards the entrance of the kitchen? You could have maintained the steps and came down onto.
Well, the issue
that was lower.
Well, the issue there is just we were trying to minimize steps from the ground floor out onto the deck, just to maintain the floor level.
You still have to come down from that deck.
Yes, there are stairs off the deck. Yes.
Yeah.
There were a couple of things I did want to clarify. There were some comments made that weren't accurate. First off, the deck is at grade level. It's not above anything. Or sorry, at the level of the ground floor. It's not higher than the ground floor. It was built with a permit originally. It was only the change that was made after the neighbor, by the way, requested the removal of those trees. It was not a result of the construction of the deck. In fact, the reason the screen went up was because we had to remove the trees. Well, we didn't have to, but we were asked to by the neighbor, and we obliged. So I'm really not understanding.
Why were you asked to remove those trees if the trees provided screening?
Because apparently, according to the owner, the trees were overhanging his side of the fence, and he wasn't happy with that. They removed them.
Mr. Tao, you asked for the trees to be removed?
No, we didn't.
I'm sorry, I'm going on what my client has told me.
Okay.
I can't.
No, we didn't. Can you hear me?
I can
Yes,
hear
yes,
you.
I heard you. I heard you. Thank you. You
We
can
never
mute
asked
yourself
that.
again. Okay, thank you. All right, go ahead, Mr. Hudson, and have you finished your comments to all the things that the neighbors have commented? Because we still
Well,
have more neighbor to go through.
yeah. No, one of the other comments was this gentleman has said that he spoke to the neighbors on Nautical that didn't know what they were signing. That is not correct. I had copies of the drawings and photos of what we were doing, and I spent the time to go through that with everybody that signed. So everybody that signed that petition knew what they were signing.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, has Mr. Beedman been able to join us, Madam Secretary Treasurer, or not yet?
Yes, Madam Chair, I believe that he is with Martin Gladue, and Martin will pass the phone over to him.
Oh, okay, very well. Go ahead, Mr. Beedman.
Yeah, good evening, everyone, Madam Chair. I live 3 doors to the south on the same street, and what our concern is like I speak to the neighbors. We've been there 17 years. We have a very tight neighborhood. All the neighbors between myself and that property, they're all complaining about their privacy being compromised. And to put it in perspective, when I'm out in my backyard and I'm three properties to the south, who's ever sitting up in, I'm going to call it the tower, they can see what myself and my family are doing in our backyard. So even being 3 doors down, we're somewhat compromised as far as enjoyment of property. The other concern we have now is basically setting a precedent here. Now we're kind of all fearing what's going to happen next in the neighborhood. Are they going to be allowing all kinds of structures, different shapes and sizes? That sticks out like a sore thumb. It looks like a tower, and it really shocked me. The individual has 40 years experience doing decks, and it just seemed like there's a little bit of a matter of willful blindness. And the other piece is it defies logic as far as the fence bylaws, because the fence bylaws, I believe, and I'm not an expert, I think it's 6 feet tall, but this is double that. So why would they even have a fence bylaw? So that would be my respectful submissions.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Beedman. Are there any questions or items of clarifications from the committee members? Okay. If there's no one else waiting to speak to the committee, Madam Secretary Treasurer will take the matter into committee.
No, Madam Chair, that's all.
Okay, thank you. Who would like to move a motion? Go ahead, Mr. Dickey.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to make a motion to deny. I'm going to say this around backwards. This is a high wall. What I see, it's not built according to the drawings. It's very close to the lot line, but that only makes it look higher. I'm not saying that, I'm assuming that's the side yard setback is fine, but just the matter that it's so close to the lot line. In my opinion, it's not desirable and appropriate, and it's not minor in the fact, because we're actually talking about, of course, a rear yard setback, almost just over, cutting back just less than half of what the rear yard setback should be. And I therefore make a motion that the application is applied for be denied.
Okay. there discussion on this recommendation? Mr. Sadowski, go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, I just wanted to say that I'm going to support Mr. Dickey's motion. This is a walled covered porch that presents like an addition with a 3.79 meter rear yard setback. I don't believe this meets the intent of the bylaw, and it certainly is not desirable.
Very well. Okay. All those in support of the motion to deny? Okay, the application has been denied, none opposed.
Okay, thank you.
Good evening. All right. There are minutes to confirm on June 11th. Mr. Dickey, thank you for moving those minutes. And then motion to adjourn. Ms. Price, thank you. We are adjourned at 10:16 p.m. Madam Secretary.